The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors, and welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and Moorish science, an awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, I am pleased to come to you with a very special guest that many of you know, and I believe he needs not much of an introduction. He is, in my opinion, the record keeper. You all know him as Brother Rod Hayes, and he is going to share tonight with a candid conversation about what he's doing and what we should be doing. So help me welcome for the very first time to this platform, Brother Rod Hayes. But before he comes on, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. Now let's receive Brother Rod Hayes.
How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just trying to wake the people up. That's all.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And I am, first of all, let me say that I am have been a follower of your work ever since I first came across you. I mean, a few months back. I don't know how many months that was, but the thing that got me was I heard you mention Grand Sheik Taj Tariq, and
Right.
you were talking about how he had been saying what he what you were saying. He had been saying it for like 30, 40 years, and we still hadn't gotten it. And I said, okay, I mean, make sure his name was being mentioned in a good context, because there's so many haters out there that don't appreciate and respect what he's doing. But that got me, and from then you had me from at that point.
So Taj has been pretty consistent in what he's been teaching. We were under a contract. The contract, we didn't make the contract, first of all. But the contract was written in the blood of one of our elders.
Okay.
So no blood of the righteous shall be spilled in vain. So my job as I grow is to watch the elders across the land and what they doing. I have to be able to read them the same way as I read a book.
Wow.
So Ty's been telling them how to navigate the contract, because we wasn't supposed to be affected by the contract. That was us a whole nother.
What contract are we talking about?
The contract, we know it today as the Constitution. The Constitution is a blood oath agreement of Scottish Rite Freemasons under Albert Pike. Right? Who is George Washington with a shaved beard.
So you're trying to say they pulled the okie doke on us?
Yeah, George Washington was my complexion. Probably a little lighter if he was lighter. He was originally from Barbados, and his last name wasn't Washington, it was Washita.
Washita, okay.
But what happened was the Scottish Rite Moors, who were in exile from Spain, challenged us to a conjure war. And the conjure war was to have us pit against the chiefs with the feathers and the L's with the fezzes to establish who was the wisest on the land. And George Washington, I did a lecture on this last night on my page, by the way, where I went into detail about how we got deceived.
Well, can you share a bit of that, do a little bit of a recap for us so we can, because one thing, I don't know if the audience caught it, but you said you mentioned two kinds of Moors. Well, you said the Moors with the chiefs.
The term Moor is what you call a catch term in grammar. A catch term is you got different people or different subject or idea in multiple language. But when you translate it into the new language, you need a term that's going to encompass all of these different ideas.
Okay.
Right? So the term Moor, it was the catch term for the More, the Moreno, Morisco, the Amur, Inca, the Amore, Amaru. All of those terms in English is rendered as Moor in translation. But they're not the same people.
Okay, not the same. Explain. Because we try to say that they're all the same, we just in different places, but
because that's how they was. So in the Conjure War, if the ones with the feathers is the ones who is the defenders, the black piece on the chessboard. The ones who are in the fezzes came over, they were white. The white pieces on the chessboard. The white man ain't white. The white man look like us.
Okay.
Right? Now, over here in modern times, some of our elders can halfway see them and they call them Negropeans. Right? So what they doing is they following the biblical blueprint of Jacob, undermining Esau, the ruddy red one. Right? But they different people. But they don't want us to know this because we have what they call first right to the earth right. In other words, the women on the land over here are the ones who have the right to reclaim the earth at the close of the age. And we had to raise the matriarchy. And in order to raise the matriarchy, we have to put the pieces together of what happened, who did, where they done it at, how they done it, who was involved, who we are, who they are. So let's take Empress Tierra Gostin El Bay, Empress Verdiasi. She had El and she had Bay on her name. That means that the knowledge that she possessed, she could take feathers from a Bay or fez from an L in order to reclaim the land. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And her bloodline ties straight back to Noble Drew Ali, same blood, Cherokee Nation, Washita, D-Dong, the mound builders of ancient. Now, all the time, they over here in our midst, just the wheat and the chaff story.
You talked about that, yeah.
Right. They look like us, but they don't treat each other like we do. Right. There was a certain code on the land over here, and you could tell the people from the land because no matter what happened, they follow that code. That's what you call righteousness. The code of righteousness is written in your heart. They call it those who follow the golden rule, the golden ones. Right? Mm-hmm. And we were the ones with the feathers. This is your Thanksgiving memorial. Because we had to know that the turkey was the symbol for the chief. In the harvest festival, the women cooked the chief a turkey. They took the harvest festival, then they murdered us on Black Friday. Mm. So it's not Thanksgiving that's not part of our culture. It's Black Friday that's the damning of a nation.
So they let's stop just a minute. So what you're saying is the day when before the, what we're going through the last couple of years, folks ran out and purchased everything and got all these deals and so forth, is actually a day that commemorates the murdering of our chiefs. So the Thanksgiving, when folks say the Thanksgiving is not ours, that was ours, but it was what happened the day after.
That didn't have nothing. That wasn't ours. They gave that to us whether we wanted it or not, and called it Black Friday. That's when the wars initiated. When they killed off the elders, and there's nobody to teach the children. Right? It's all in morals and dogma. It's the ones who follow the moral code written in their heart versus the ones who follow the dogma that is taught out in the open.
So when you talk about the dogma taught out in the open, are we talking quote unquote religious dogma or just?
Yes.
Okay.
So remember in Circle 7, Noble Drew Ali wrote a chapter called Religious Controversy. Now, why is that in there? Why is it important to know about the religious controversy? Because that shit didn't have nothing to do with us. We fighting over it. We fighting if we're going to be Christians, Muslims, or Hebrews, and we wasn't none of that shit.
Yeah. They're talking in the chat. I mentioned in the chat, they hear the static that's coming from you. So I don't know. We tried to get rid of it before we went live, y'all. So we're going to do the best we can. We were talking prior and it was clear. As soon as we got ready to go live, the static came. So y'all know how it is, any kind of little interference. So please bear with us. Just listen real close. Turn up your sound or whatever. But, you
want me to try to go out and come back in? We could probably get a better link, connection.
Okay, if you'd like to do that, let's stick it in there because it popped up all of a sudden.
Let me see if we can get a better connection.
Okay, all right, y'all. Thank you all for your patience. Listen, while he's getting it back, share this link, please. This is a special broadcast, and the brother's gonna drop some stuff. Please, please, please share right now. Share as far as you can. Tell everybody to get on. Let me see how it sounds right now.
How is it? How was the sound?
Sounds good to me right now. So let's hold on to that.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. Just let everybody know. I want to see 1,000 in the chat. We've had more than 1,000. So come on. Let them so we can all know this, get this knowledge. I have given you, Brother Hayes, another name, a nickname, or like a tag, and I call you the record keeper. Among the other things that you did, you're an activist, but I call you the record keeper because whenever we have talked over the last week or so, you just have such a barrage of, a plethora of information and knowledge, and it just flows out of you just so natural. We talked about how you study we talked about the similarities between you and Grand Sheik on how you absorb yourself into things. But you just have, it's like you were endowed or endued and viewed with the gift of retaining or to get the information, the knowledge of the records, and to bring it back. I should have called you Brother Akashic. You got so much stuff in you.
Yeah, that might upset my sister Akasha, so don't do that.
Oh, I don't mean no disrespect. I mean no disrespect, but I just know that when you and I have spoken, it has been just, I just get filled up with the knowledge that comes out. But let's go back. You're back on. So let's get back where we were. We were talking about what were we talking about? My goodness, I'm gonna, where you were. I want you to get back on that because we're, the different Moors. When you talked about the white man isn't the white that we know that they're not white, but you're saying that there were white, so-called white men, but they look like us, but they were not us. Am I correct?
Right.
There you go.
So they were called conquistadors. Okay. We know them in the history books as blackamoors.
Okay.
Right. And this is the reason why they was kicking our ass for so long. They used pale faces to block the institution so that we didn't know what was being done to us. They was doing everything in secret. That goes against the rules of the land over here.
Okay.
Right? So because they was doing it in secret and we couldn't get in the lodges, we invited half of Europe to come over here to flood the lodges with the same motherfuckers that kicked them out over there.
Wow.
Because they had the pale face, they could get in. Once they got in, then they can give us, we call it flip out. They can flip out the secrets into the public domain.
Now, who is us? Because now are we talking about the Moors that were not us, or us, the ones of the land, the people of the land?
We wasn't called Moors.
Okay.
Right? We was already here.
All right.
Right? So we over here refer to them as black devils. Right? Because they are sworn enemy. We didn't swear to be their enemy because we was kind-hearted, loving people, accepted everybody with open arms. They hugged us and then stabbed us in the back. Right?
And they're amongst us now, aren't they?
Yes.
Good.
Right? Some of them is some of your favorite activists that's been trying to get us to take up arms against pale people, but never letting us know that the people behind it, their skin ain't pale. They come out of the Scottish Rite Lodge, but we got blindsided by the group of Scottish Rite Freemasons that came in under Albert Pike.
So was Albert Pike sent in by the Blackamoors to?
So he was what you call a double agent and a turncoat. So they knew that our people with the feathers and the people with the feathers was going to have amnesia during the 200-year duration of the contract because of the blood oath. We didn't make the blood oath. We didn't volunteer our people for the blood oath. They done it on their own. They murdered Crispus Attucks and wrote the Constitution in his blood because they know no blood of the righteous shall be spilt in vain. The contract had to be fulfilled. It expired July the 4th, 2019. And the ones who was to alert us was what we call Republicans, the Elephant Lodge. The Elephants is the one who was loyal to Big Mama.
Who was Big Mama? For those of them.
In ancient Egypt, we called her Tawaret. Big Mama is source creator. The dark mother, represented as the darkness of space, or what they call the primordial noon. Right? So when they came over here, we didn't know what was going on because we didn't have anything to do with none of the deals being made. And if you want to know more about that, you have to read David Walker's appeal when he was talking to the other chiefs on the land about these people that's in so-called bondage. They look like us, but the other elders was telling him, them people not us. Stay out of it, don't got nothing to do with us. And he couldn't understand why we don't get in it. Over time, the amnesia allowed us to be deceived. Once we was deceived, they told us we was the same people when we came on ships from Africa. When you go back and look at the history book, when the Moors got kicked out of Spain, they went to something called the Maghreb. The Maghreb was northwestern Africa. And that's why in the Dogma, they tell us that this is northwestern Africa because they're trying to identify with the land so that they can claim our birthright.
So when you say they say this, meaning what they call a Mexim or America is also Northwest Africa.
But it ain't.
What you say is not. So it has nothing to do with the super devere that happened, or with the split and all that stuff. That the
no
shift and none of that.
That's the Dogma.
Really?
The dogma is designed to make us believe that we the same people and to follow the feathers to our own destruction and to do away with the feathers for good.
So the fez that most Moors wear is the symbol of the blackamoors. If that am I correct? I'm trying to follow this, and not, you might get some feedback, pushback, because everybody's wearing their fez, and
But this is the problem. This is the problem now. Just like they was trying to make us forget who we was, we had to send chiefs in to take the fezzes from them. This is the chess game. So I can't tell the good Moor to take his fez off. He won that position by confronting the enemy directly.
Okay.
So he have to wear the fez, even though I can look in his face and know he's Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Blackfoot, Crow. I know what he is, but I still gotta honor him wearing the fez, because in order for him to get his rank, he have to dethrone one of the fez wearers. And the only way to dethrone him is by superior knowledge and wisdom. And the only way that's proven is by direct confrontation with him.
And did we? Did we?
Yeah, we won. Our people just don't know we won yet.
Well, so we won. People don't know it. It almost sounds like Juneteenth. Like you're so-called, you've been emancipated, but you don't know it, so you still. And I know that's probably a fictitious thing too. But
the Emancipation Proclamation that's when they took the private property, servitude, or slaves or indentures, and put them in what they call the public domain and made them wards of the collective state.
So
it's just a transfer.
Wasn't doing anything for the so-called melanated slaves. It was an administrative move
to take the slaves out of the hand of private owners and put them into the corporate jurisdiction of what we call the United States Corporation.
Ain't that a boogie?
The United States Corporation is a merger of something called the Northwest Trading Company and the Virginia Company. At the time, the Morocco was a royal company out of Spain that they called Morocco, but it didn't have any land. It wasn't tied to land. It was tied to a charter of a what they call letters patent decree by the Crown of England. Well, in this case, it was the Crown of France.
So the so-called the treaty that is often quoted, cited, the peace and friendship.
That was a corporate agreement from the Crown to the CEO of the Morocco.
Okay.
It wasn't no Morocco. It was no country called Morocco.
I realized that. So we're told that there was something over here that deeded or gave them, ceded them some kind of a use to do commerce on the land. But we do know that Morocco, as we know it today, didn't become a whatever country, state, or whatever until in the 1900s, right?
You ever hear Malcolm X say, "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us"?
Absolutely have.
Do you remember hearing about a ship that came from Europe called the Plymouth?
That I did not.
Okay, look it up. It's a ship. Well, the ship ran into a sandbar in the bay near DC. DC 10 square miles is what you call ground zero of the crash site.
No.
So this is what you call a collateral attack in law. So while they using the Babylonian blood magic to write the Constitution in the blood of Crispus Attucks, they take us to international court. When they take us to international court, they said that our landmass crashed into their ship, and it would take 200 years to dispensate the dispute And during that time, they needed a charter to perform business over here.
So allegedly, they couldn't get back because their ship was
We
grounded.
crashed our landmass into their ship.
Their ship didn't crash into our landmass. Our landmass crashed into their ship. It moved
That's
out.
their claim.
I'll be damned.
So when they make that claim and take us to international court, it automatically puts us under what they call admiralty jurisdiction in law. Right? Admiralty jurisdiction is the Uniform Commercial Code law of nations. Nations are corporations. Tribal lands are not a nation, they are a country.
Right.
We don't have cities, we have towns. We don't have counties, we have parishes. We don't have states, we have territories. But they did what they call, the CIA still do it to this day, it's called creating a cutout. The cutout is the lines of demarcation that break the land up into what they call manageable regions. And each manageable region is assigned a corporate charter. We call it the charter of the state. Right? Now, they overlaid their corporate jurisdiction on top of us without never telling us what they was doing. That's why I know what Drew Ali said, you have to learn how to run a government. Because if you don't know how to run a government, you'll never know what they done. Right? So now when I'm looking from genetic memory, I'm seeing how the shit's supposed to be, and I'm seeing how it is. So now I got to figure a way out to tell all of my people, this ain't us. This has nothing to do with us.
So even what's going on now, you know, everybody's talking, you know, just Sarah, they're talking things are happening, the government, the republic is being restored, you know, these folks have been taken away and, you know, put in under, you know, arrest for crimes against humanity, yet we still continue to see faces and we still continue to get, you know, mandates and all kinds of different things that are coming down, just, you know. So are you saying that it's a show, it's happening?
It's absolutely 100% a shit show. It's not even a good show. But I've been eating my popcorn watching it play out, because what they doing is the more of us that become aware, the more they losing their narrative in their CIA, KGB, MI5 controlled media conglomerates across the world. See, that's their last stronghold is media.
But isn't it true now that I look back at it, brother Rod, what I got was that entertainment as we've come to know it, and so-called enjoy it, was never for our good, and it was always for our control. Because I could think back to when you see the accounts of the radio with War of the Worlds, and they were testing to see how people would take, you know, the news of some kind of space invasion and folks was killing themselves and all that. But when you look back at the old movie reels and stuff, you'll see that media and military were hand in hand way back there. Most of the films that were being produced had an agenda behind them. I mean, I'm sure it has expanded over the years to some, you know, sideline folks who think it's a real deal, but it's at its core, at its root, it seems as though it's always been a form of mind indoctrination and indoctrination. Yes,
that's 100%. It's the okay. So media means what? In the middle, don't it?
Yeah.
Who is it in the middle of? The have and the have-nots. Who owns it? The haves. And who are they trying to push their agenda on? The have-nots. Right? So while they trying to push their agenda on us, they using their agenda to keep us deluded into believing the narrative that they painted that we came on slave ships.
Then
Right.
you got this whole, what is it? What is the agenda? The Pan-African Agenda. I remember talking to someone from Africa a few years ago who actually said that that you all came from here wasn't true. But I said, you know what? But it's good for the economy, right? And he said, absolutely. So you got so many people that have been going, to Ghana and going to, Nigeria and different places like that. And they said, oh, they welcomed us. They're washing clothes and hanging them up and said, we've been washing your clothes for you, waiting for you to come back. I said, my goodness, it's a marketing campaign to get us to, fall for or believe that that's where we came from.
That's why they had the Liberian movement, the Back to Africa movement.
Right. So we didn't come from there to here, but they took some of us or sent some of us from here to there.
Right. And where did they bring them from over here from? What part of the land did those people in Liberia come from over here?
I don't know.
The Lone Star State.
Texas.
That's why they only have one star on Liberia.
Ah.
So the ones that fell for the lie, like a lot of us over here believe they sold out. They didn't sell out. They actually believe that narrative that the Dirty Moors gave them, that they came on slave ships and that they was actually going back home. But they didn't find out until they was well settled over there that they wasn't from over there.
Wow.
Right. Mm-hmm. But now that they didn't amalgamate it with the people on the land over there, they just got just as much right to stay there as they do to come back here.
Wow.
Right. So we all supposed to got mad at the pale man at the end and went on a bloody rampage killing them motherfuckers, and they ain't the ones behind
it. So the pale face has actually been a pawn, it looks like.
100% a pawn. They are what you call the blood shield of the blackamoors. Well, you translate blood shield as Rothschild. Nobody never do no real research on the Rothschilds. They find that not a single Rothschild had a personal bank account with any money in it. Everything they did was through the foundation. Right? Why did they do everything through the foundation? Because the foundation is predicated upon stolen items from here. In the ancient code of thieves is updated. It's called the Uniform Commercial Code. They can live off of it until the people who owns it reclaims it. Then they have to return it back to them with just compensation. That's why we're not eligible for reparations, because they just sitting on our shit, our wealth. The Americas was the wealthiest land in the world because the way that the people treated each other. Money wasn't the driving force. The love for your family was the driving force of everything we did. And that's the part that they couldn't understand when they got over here, because they believe in family feuds.
Yeah, I mean, I read a book, and I don't know whether it was it so-called somebody we know that's allegedly supposed to be famous quoted that when they got here, the people of the land, they were peaceable people. They were everything they wrote, what they encountered, if they were telling the truth, spoke to definitely not anybody who was savage or coming out of caves or anything. It was well established societies and laws and whatever that governed them. But
yeah, they burned down our cities and flooded them out, blew them up with dynamite. We had massive structures over here. Chicago always been a metropolis for thousands of years, the same as New Orleans, the same as Detroit, the same as New York. Right? Those always been metropolises. This is what the World Fairs was filming.
Was that a cover up though? They were actually these were
they had to keep a record. Look, they had to keep a record of it before they tore it down.
Right, but they made pretend they had established these buildings as temporary World's Fairs, whatever. But you couldn't even hardly take them down because they had been up so long. Am I correct?
Right. And that's when they came in with the dynamite and the demolition. So that's why you got the Great Fire of Los Angeles, the Great Fire of Chicago, the Great Fire of Miami. Florida used to be full of trees like the California redwood forest, and the people lived in the treetops and on the bottom of the trees. Those were became known as, they started calling them Seminoles when they realized that they were a mixture of every tribe across the land. The Seminole means that they mix. It's a mixed tribe. But the tribes came as far away as the Polynesian Islands to fight in the Seminole Wars. That's where the war was taking place.
Wow.
So they backdoored us on the Louisiana Purchase. Whole tribes that moved their families closer to Florida so that their soldiers, their sons, can go fight in the wars. We was settling Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Louisiana. We drop our families off there with big mamas, and then we go fight in the wars. Well, we left castles empty. We left villages empty, like the Pueblo in Colorado. We just, the whole clan just got up. We finna go kick some ass. And now when they do the Louisiana Purchase, they declared that we abandoned the land, and as the protectorate, they had the right to resettle it. And that's the reason why that's how they violate the treaties, with the trick of the language, what they call legalese.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you abandon it, they got the right to claim it till you come back home.
Well, isn't that the same thing now when it comes down to foreclosures and so forth? You get the notification, and some folks stand their ground and stay in their property, but as soon as you move out, they say abandonment. So the initial reason why they're going to take the property goes out the window. You abandoned it. It's like, finders keepers, losers weepers, so to speak.
So the people that settle the land become squatters.
Mm-hmm.
This is where they come up with something called squatters' rights. It's called, in ancient law, it's called the right of fair use. If you ain't using it in its workable condition, somebody who's willing to use it and maintain the condition can use it.
Well, why doesn't that rule apply now with all these vacant buildings and so forth that are around because people have abandoned them, for so-called economic reasons? Why is it that when if someone was to take over and say, look, I'm going to do something else with this, it now is a crime?
Because they got to first tie you to the paper chain. In other words, an adhesion contract. The property not changing hands under the corporate jurisdiction of the United States unless somebody's putting something on paper. They got to know who got your land and who hands has been through before you take it back, so they can know what they owe you.
And how does one do that?
They gonna tell you. This whole system is over. The United States corporation has been dethroned, so to speak. We under the Indigenous Rights Act now. We in the middle of continuity of government transfer. That's why the borders has been closed for almost 2 years.
From what I hear, the borders are being flooded by, so-called.
Oh, I'm talking about the ports. All those ships that's still sitting on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They blamed on COVID. You can't have a government transfer and have your ports open. That's ancient knowledge. Anytime you transfer in government, you have to close the port so you don't allow yourself to the opportunity to be invaded by a foreign force while the government is in transition.
But the foreign force is right here on the land,
but
as well as outside the land too.
Right, but they in the process of being exiled from the land.
Well, they're not going down without a fight, because it seems like before they go out, they try to throw every, bit of a, mandate laws or whatever those things that, that mandate.
A mandate is just a suggestion. That's not a law.
Okay.
It's just a suggestion.
Okay. But we don't know that. And so if you just like, I guess, the illegality of income tax. It's a voluntary thing, but if you acquiesce and fill out their forms, then they have the right to apply.
Because you agreed to the contract. Then the contract becomes enforceable. The Internal Revenue Service is an independent tax collection agency. They debt collectors. That's all they are. You audit yourself when you do the paperwork for them. So they allowing you to audit yourself and tell them if you owe them anything.
I was told that they were getting ready to institute some new procedure like in 2024. I think it's like 2024, or is it 2023? That they're going to already send you the tax paperwork filled out based on the information they've gotten in, and they're going to send you your tax, your whatever your 1040 or whatever you do, 1040, and then they're going to say this is what you owe or this is what you get back, because they're going to do it based on what they've gotten in. So that, which means they're probably going to disallow all of the deductions and all of these things, because if they're just going to send it to you, I'm hoping that that's a fraudulent thing that was told to me.
Everything they're doing is fraudulent. They are illegally occupying the territory under false pretenses. That make every contract that they ever sign void, because it's a constructed fraud. That's why they don't never honor none of their treaties. If you ask the Grand Sheik, if you say, Taj, why they don't honor none of their treaties, he probably be like, I don't know. They just evil like that. No, they don't honor the treaties because they never made them with the people from the land in the first place.
That's the part, because who knew, that they were making deals with folk that look like us that were not us.
No, the people that look like us brought $5 Indians over here,
and they made it with them. And they're the ones they made the contracts with. So that's why that group was recently able to get that land in was it Colorado? Where was it?
All that smoke and mirrors.
Oh, so it really isn't what.
Look, those $5 Indians, when they got over here, they came as the indentured servants. They were originally prisoners of war from the Mongol Empire war with the Romans and the Huns wars with the Romans, where they was taking slaves as spoils of war. They also brought some that come from what we called Hindustan, and they brought them over here, and this is the group we see doing all our rituals. The question is, how did they learn our rituals?
What rituals are those?
All of the dances, the things to do with the feathers, the peyote ceremonies.
Oh, okay.
Our rituals.
And they have the powwows. Those folks having the
yeah.
Okay.
But all that's our stuff. So when they was on the Trail of Tears, they was kicking the ones that looked like me and you off in the southern states. And the ones that they brought over here that passed off as Dawes Road's $5 Indians, they marched them onto reservations. And them the ones they wrote the treaties with, so they can make us believe that we came from somewhere else. And none of our ancestors signed treaties with them. We didn't believe in that. We didn't believe in their style of contract law. We believed in a man say what he gonna do, and that's what he do, and he shake hands on it, and that's bounding before man and God. They needed the paperwork in order to keep us constantly recontracting with them with paperwork. That's why anything that you file with the system, whether you put them on notice, if you send them a legal form to put them on notice, you just made an adhesion contract recognizing their superior jurisdiction.
Can you repeat that, please? I heard what you said, but can you say that again, please?
Yeah. Anytime you file paperwork with them, any kind of legal forms, even if it's putting them on notice, you are agreeing to their superior jurisdiction over you in status. Nobody that is organic to the land, right, need to file any paperwork with anybody on the land because they from here. You organic to the land. You before a Native American. You before an Indian. You before all that shit. You before the Moors. But they don't want you to know it. So they scrambled this egg up in legalese. It's all tied up in the legalese, in the application of the law. And it's what Ty's been telling them for the longest. If you don't understand these legal terms, you wasting your time. How many times you heard him say that?
Yeah. You're right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that folks are trying to do things to at least make the declaration. But what you're saying is you don't have a problem with the proclamation of one.
You're supposed to do it under our culture. It's done orally, and it's done in the public domain in an archivable format. Years ago, before the invaders came, when we had a public declaration to make, we used to have somebody called the city or the town clerk read it in the town square.
Yeah, they would have but they would read them. Yeah.
Because that's who you went to. That's what their job was, is to put in the public domain your declaration. That's why they used to read off childbirths. Such and such and such and such. Chief Littlehorn was born to so and such and such on this day and at this time. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's letting everybody know of the new births that's taking place in the community. And it's keeping the community tight-knit. This is all under the matriarchy.
Speak about that, because we talked about that too, that, one of the big issues, and even Prophet Noble Drew Ali spoke about it. When you look at the question, the 101s, there you have him with, the woman who's in, I don't know whether she's asleep or unconscious or what, but humanity's written on her womb. And it's going to take the matriarchy to be restored to its rightful place in order to do what needs to be done. But we see all these things rising up. They're very patriarchal, even from our so-called people.
Yeah.
Speak on that, please.
So the whole purpose of the patriarchy was to restrict our family ties and to minimize the bloodline. They was trying to kill us off. You got to remember that. If you ever let it out, when you're doing the research, if you ever let it out your mind that all this mean that all of these things go with them killing us off on the land. Right? So they couldn't understand why the harder they press us, the faster we proliferate. Right? And if they try to take their foot off our neck, the faster we rise up in all fields of science, government, economics, entertainment, everything else. If they take their foot off our neck, we start rising in those aspects. So now they didn't know what to do. They can't keep us down because we propagate. When you oppress us, we start having babies like rabbits. But when you take the oppression off us and start taking your foot off our neck, then we start having the smaller families, 1 and 2 kids, because we're so busy excelling in whatever part of your society you say we can't conquer. Mm-hmm. Just to show you we can conquer it.
And then the latest agenda is that, that trans, that.
Right, that's to underline the males. The masculine is not fit to rule if he's been anally penetrated.
So a lot of their rituals in the music industry and the entertainment industry includes that happening.
Yeah, they sodomize them so that they're not fit to rule. That way, if they ever get the following to rule, they're going to end up having a heart attack or a stroke from the spirit side because they root chakra has been shattered. It's called a shattered oracle ritual that they doing. It's a sex ritual, and it's out of the Babylonian sex magic.
Wow.
Everything they doing in this government is designed to make me and you think we came over on a ship. That's it. Ain't no further addition or subtraction, then that's the bottom line. As long as we think we came on ships and we not from over here, we will never reclaim what's rightfully ours.
But let me back up a little bit. Yes, we didn't come over on ships, but people that look like us are everywhere on the planet.
Globally.
On the planet. I know when I used to like say read the Bible, I used to think in terms of like where, because I didn't know anything about being a Moor, but where did people like me or United States at the time, where did we figure in into this Bible story and into this
We
these
don't.
prophecies? Yeah, well, that's what I mean, these prophecies and so forth. And so now that I know what I know, I'm thinking that while some things were going on or some things were being created as if they had going on, there were people who lived in other parts, hence where we are now, who were here, had been here, and that the narrative was created, that the biblical narrative and even the so-called like maybe Jewish and Islamic, some of those were created. I call them like sort of three levels of like catch-all. Like if we can't get you in this one, you get you in that one. If we don't get you in this one, because we created them all from the same pot or the same.
Well, Christianity was created before Judaism.
Okay, but it was written. They wrote it as if in the book, as if it
Because they wrote Judaism to give Christianity a backstory.
Okay. Well, we would say when I was in Bible college, they would say the Old Testament is the New Testament concealed, and the New Testament is the Old Testament revealed, or something like that. That's what they would say. And then there was this period in between they called 400 silent years when they said God didn't speak. But what I've surmised since then is that those were years when the I don't know what family it was, the Piso family and so forth, and their generations were actually crafting the narrative and making these, trying to make these books be, to coincide and balance.
You ever heard of a Maccabees Bible?
I've heard of Maccabees, yes.
Okay, that's the Catholic Bible. It's 14 books between Malachi and Matthew.
The Apocryphal.
Right. That's what they call them. Now, Apocryphal means hidden.
Right.
When Martin Luther rebelled, in order for them to paint the narrative they want to, that there was 400 years between Malachi and Matthew, they had to take out those other books.
Okay.
Right. When you look, it's 14 of them. But when they was putting the original manuscript together, they was doing that in Nicaea.
Okay, in the 325 AD.
Right. Under Constantine.
Right.
Right. While they was putting that together, they had grabbed what we call priests from varying different backgrounds to consolidate the text and form what they call the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The Bible now has 66 books, but under the Catholics, it has 80. Right. So that's showing you right there that even the Christians don't agree with Christianity. But they want us to fall for it hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely.
They mistranslate words and terms on purpose to confuse the reader into following the narrative that they paint. This is the dogma aspect of the morals and dogma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they first created Christianity for Rome to conquer the world. But when there were certain groups of people that didn't accept Christianity, they infiltrated their culture and attached it to the church. Example, the Quran of the Muslims, the Al-Quran, is got chapters to Mary, chapters to Isa, right?
Right.
It was written by Muhammad, supposed to have been an Arab prophet. And his counselors were all Catholic priests. Khadijah, his first wife, was a high-ranking Catholic nun. So his influence for Islam, it even tell him in the Quran and say, if you have any doubt, O Muhammad, in what we speak, consult the scholars from the scriptures of old. Talking about the Bible. In other words, go ask your uncle Waraka, who wear this motherfucking father tie, if we telling you the story the way we want it told. But what they don't tell us is the whole narrative came out of a story that took place in Greece, right? Where the three elders went to the servant, the faithful servant, in the garden or in the swinging gardens to give part upon him the knowledge. It's the same story. It's the same story as the three wise men. It's the three kings conjured.
Right.
Because before you raise the patriarchy, you got to have the three kings as the openers of the way.
Speaking of the three kings, from my conversations with you, I may be wrong in my what I've surmised, but the three kings are a group, are I want to say from spiritual, if you will. They come in different dispensations.
Yeah.
And at this time, the kings have been held, so to speak. The current incarnation of kings are ones who have been given a really, I guess, negative, press and
Right.
and
So that's all. Remember COINTELPRO.
Mm-hmm.
Stop the rise of any potential messiah who could incite the masses. Right. And they have a list in CIA documents and FBI documents of who these leaders was that they was concerned could incite the masses. Chicago, they took out at least 400 of our leaders from the land that had the potential to lead us out of this condition. Most of them they murdered, but
Would these be
ones,
like the so-called gang wars we thought?
yeah. So they telling us it's gang wars, but none of the gang leaders is at war.
Mm-hmm.
But they put their kids in there with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they kids don't act like our kids.
Well, our children. Look, we're not gonna call them kids because those are baby goats. But
Mm-hmm.
I know what you mean. They put them together, but they've given them the narrative that we are at war, right? Is that why they're no? I've been told by some, that live in Chicago that there were times and some OGs when there would be open rail cars on the tracks with guns and ammunition, or in alleys, guns and ammunition were like left there for them to, and then they get knowledge that it's there, like, yeah, so and so. And a lot of what they got because it was put there.
Absolutely. The same in LA.
Right.
Right. They have right now, they be hitting the freights. That's what they call it, hitting the freights.
Mm-hmm.
They hit the freights. They're supposed to get stuff like TVs, radios, clothes. Now you hitting the freights and you getting AK-47s, MAC-10s, 45s, 380s. You getting Glock, Beretta. You getting a smorgasbord of firearms.
Mm-hmm.
We don't make them. We don't make them. So how is they getting into the hood? Somebody bringing them in there, and it ain't us, because we ain't making them.
Mm-hmm.
They telling us gun control. They telling us that the right to bear arms is for the purposes of going hunting, for recreational purposes. But that's not what the founding fathers of the so-called country said. They said that the right to bear arms was so that anytime this government goes astray from the principles of Constitution, that the citizen have a right to take up arms and replace the government. And they don't want you to know that, though.
It wasn't just to bear arms for just any old dispute. You stepped on my lawn and I didn't get your.
It's specifically targeting government.
They don't say that.
It's in the Constitution. Matter of fact, in the Declaration of Independence, it tell you that at any time that the people become disenfranchised with the government, it is the duty of the people to take up arms and replace the government in a well-formed coup. It's right in the documents. But we don't have to use a military coup. All we have to do is claim our birthright, and that put us in control of all government, military, political, and economic events taking place on the land. Right? So we need to be able to call the three chiefs. What is their purpose? Right? So they had to form clans. We had to form clans. We have to reform the family across common bonds. They called it we was ganging, we was gang banging. Gang mean clan. So we was formulating clans, they was infiltrating the clans. And they was starting the wars between two clans who was formerly at peace. Right? So, like for instance, I'm gonna give you an example. This is well known in California after the Rodney King riots in '91. And the Bloods and Crips had something that they called the truth, where they tied their rags together, and the OGs said, we're going to stop killing each other, and we're going to focus on this government. Within a week, they started having drive-bys while you got Bloods visiting Crips. You got some strange Bloods trying to shoot up a Crip neighborhood. The Bloods telling them ain't us. They calling our set out, but we all here. So they end up shooting the cars up, find out they undercover police and FBI agents. So they've been turning us against each other the whole time, and we didn't even know it. And the motherfuckers behind it look like us. And we didn't even know it. That's when my feelings got hurt the worst out of all of this shit that we've been through. And when I found out that the white man ain't white, and the people behind the dirt is dirty Moors, and they lying to the good Moors. But the good Moors is doing their due diligence and reclaiming the Moorish Science Temple. The Moorish Science Temple was Noble Drew Ali's message to the world, mainly to the chiefs on the land, but to the world, that we know who the fuck we is, and we can talk in code in your face, and you won't never know what we saying behind your back, just like you do us. We the coldest at that shit when we know that's the game we playing. We invented it on Earth. Right? So when the chiefs be reborn, we looking at the land, all we got to do is, at some point, it's going to dawn on us what's going on. And then it's our duty at that point to inform the rest of the chiefs. But if the chiefs are indisposed, we got to inform the public. Because it's the public responsibility to demand that the chief be brought forth to give a reporting of the events of what's taking place on the land. It's like Tupac said, somebody got to explain why I ain't got shit. Whose job is it? The chairman of the Board of Chiefs. The Board of Chiefs consists of all of the chiefs across the land. The chairman of the board is the spokesperson. That's Larry Hoover. And he got to have a witness, and the witness can't be from the Blue Lodge. It got to be from the Red Lodge. That's Chief Malik Angel Bay, a.k.a. Jeff Ford. And so we needed one off the West Coast, and Jeff had to send him a witness. So off the West Coast, we got Big Tukey, Blue Lodge, West Coast, and the one that the bishop that Angel Bay sent out there to be a witness to Tukey was named T. Rogers. In T. Rogers, all of the Bloods know who he is. All the OG Bloods know who he is. When you study his history, you find out he left Chicago as a Peace Stone. He went to, because they didn't have structure. The clans was just clans without structure. And we had to have structure and order in how we move so that we can put the families back together. But all the time, we know that we being infiltrated, but there's nothing we can do about it. Because we don't know where the infiltrators is at, because we don't know who's behind it, from which angle are they coming. Now I can flat out tell you, it's a Scottish Rite, Red Lodge, Moorish Zionist temple who settled in New Jersey. Noble Drew Ali went in and got the secrets out, put them in the public domain. Noble Drew Ali started a civics organization, but somebody turned it into a religious organization so they can push the dogma, through the Moore Science Temple so that we won't be able to recognize when Charles Mosley Bray drop us the clock of destiny what he talking about. So Taj is having to re-explain all of this shit over and over ad nauseum, translating the same. How many times do he got to tell a motherfucker what the definition of Moore is? But they come in this class week after week for the definition of the same shit. What's the definition of a Moore? What's the definition of the de jure? What's the definition of the de facto? And here he is with his patient ass, love him to death, but he's too patient for me, answering the same question he answered for the last 72 weeks in a row this week. And I had to ask him, how do you keep your composure?
I know you asked him the other day when you're walking. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. He's telling you this is a contract. These people are de facto. They are frauds. They over here, and you want to know what the word de jure means. You don't want to know how to get out of the condition? You don't want to know how to reclaim your birthright the right way? You want to know what the definition of Negro is in law. Get you a Black's Law Dictionary and look that shit up, and let's get on a mission about cleaning this shit up.
Mm.
But they asked the man over and over again. He tell him how to navigate the contract. He's telling you the contract coming to a close. It ain't going to last too much longer. He's been saying that the last 10 years. And they keep asking the same question. How long is it going to be for the contract up? He don't know the date. But he know that he can feel, and his research is telling him this shit coming to an end.
Yeah. Let me shift gears a little bit on you just a moment. Where does do we figure into the narrative of us, being star people, that we originally didn't even come from Earth, on this
we
planet?
created this. This is our creation. This is okay. So this is the star seed, or this is why you got a zodiac sign.
Mm-hmm.
The zodiac sign tell you what star constellation you from. Those born under Scorpio coming into the physical under the rulership of the star family of the Scorpio constellation. The same with all the rest of them is repeat. When you come in, this because you represent a star. That's why they can't count how many stars it is, because they don't know how many people it was that ever lived.
Mm.
And when the energy from the star reaches Earth, it produces in physical form a sentient being that we call a human.
Mm.
This is our mental projection of how this creation works. It's the Merkaba in Metatron's cube.
Okay.
We all is different points in the cube. 1,000 points of light, Bush say.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was trying to stop us at 1,000 points of what you call acknowledgement of the science. This the 1,000-petaled lotus of enlightenment that he's trying to stop.
Wow.
Right? Now, they got to tell us when they making a move, they got to give us 3 knocks. They 5 years apart that they finna try to take over the world and establish a satanic rule on Earth. So it got to go click, clack, click. Remember that. World Trade Center, Federal Building, World Trade Center. Click, clack, click. 3
So
knocks.
We're getting up for the click now, right?
No, they already made their move.
All 3 of them.
Yeah. In 91, they bombed the World Trade Center the first time.
Oh,
in 95, they bombed the Federal Building in Oklahoma
City. Yeah.
In 2001, they bombed the World Trade Center again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a zigzag.
Oh, because they came back to where they started.
Right.
All right.
The 3 knocks is telling us that the ones call themselves the Illuminati. then decided to make their move to take charge of the earth. If you read Behold the Pale Horse, George Bush, with a Senate Select Committee, made himself King George I, and all presidents to follow would be under his direct command. He stayed the president until the day he died. The Clintons, George Bush, and Obama was all placeholders, puppets. That was his team.
Well, I heard that whenever a president came into office, they had to confer with him. They had to get direction from him. They had to go see him.
Because he was King George I of the United States of America. That's what he declared himself.
And then I heard they had to see Kissinger too. So I'm like,
he's what you call the advisor to the throne. Okay. That's why his old ass been around so long. That motherfucker been in politics so long. Motherfuckers ain't lived that long.
True.
And he always in everybody's business. But don't nobody know why. Who is this motherfucker and where he come from?
I just keep asking why is he still alive?
Well, he's still alive because he's proud.
We won't talk about how they stay alive, but we have they have special juices that they keeps them alive. But so wow. There's so many things going on. There's so many things going on though, and I think what we need to know is, what I'd like to ask is, what can we do to help the situation with freeing the three kings? Larry Hoover, Angel Bay, who is Tookie Williams, right?
No, Angel Bay is Jeff Ford.
Jeff Ford, and then Tookie Williams.
Right.
So these three kings are in custody, or they're not, or they're somewhere, or are they together?
Well, they Tookie they froze Tookie when they gave him the death penalty. They put him in cryostasis. That's where he had been.
Oh, like the cryogenic stuff we seen in the. Okay.
Yeah. So they thawed him out about maybe 5 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And all of them waiting. We just got to get the message to the grassroots in sufficient enough number that we stop supporting the old system so it could fall. Now you're starting to see the rollout as it's falling. It's like a slow building. The building look like it's falling slow till you try to escape from getting under it. Then you realize how fast it's really falling. The faster you run, it seems like the faster the building coming down. That's what it is. It's a slow falling building. It's a high rise. Only this is a system. The system have many, many tentacles, like octopus tentacles or like branches on a spider web. And each part of it had to be destroyed. Right? And as they get destroyed piece by piece, then we start seeing the emergence of our original system rising from the ashes of the old system that just failed. The return of the phoenix. Atlantis rises mean Atlantis comes back. Crystal City, New Jerusalem, the mothership, returns to earth. They said it sunk. That means it flew away. Misdirection. Everything they tell us is exactly upside down and backwards to the truth. It's a reflection of the truth, just told to us upside down and backwards. That's why they tell you in Revelations that Christ came with the New Jerusalem, adorned like a bride for her groom. They talking about Isis. The return of Isis, the return of the sweet water, the queen of heaven and earth. Right? And they're saying that the city got the definite measurements because in the book it's saying the one who looked like unto the Son of Man told John, take out the reed and measure. You can't measure it if it ain't in physical form.
Right.
So he measured it. So he know it's big as hell. And it's coming out the sky and it's gonna land on the Emerald Lake in Colorado.
Who's on the ship?
So the continuity government offices is in Colorado, and the Florence AdMax is in Colorado. And the transition team have to meet at the transition to government location in Colorado as they transition to government. They got a whole pamphlet that the government put out called Continuity of Government under FEMA. Now, we was told FEMA was the acronym for Federal Emergency Management Association.
Right.
But what we wasn't told is that it was also an abbreviation for female. So when we was mad at Hurricane Katrina at the incompetence of FEMA, they was using Hurricane Katrina to learn disaster response in real time without no prep. We got to learn how to take care of our own people in times of disaster and in times of peace. Because even in disaster, if we know how to take care of each other, we won't have to worry about it. We'll still live in peace.
So what you're saying is we've lost the old ways and we've become, acclimated, if you will, and indoctrinated into what they call government. And there has to be a time of disengaging and disentangling ourselves from that form of government and relearning what we had as a people. And now the continuity of government location in Colorado, is that what's taking place? And if it is, who is actually teaching? I mean, if we don't, it can be them, because we already know what their form of government is. Are there like ancients or elders, or who's teaching what we ought to know to these three kings?
The three kings already know it. They've been studying government for years. Larry got about 60 degrees from college. Angel Bay, he was doing his job when they snatched him off the land. His job is to physically remove the imposters off the land, not figurative, literally, like whatever it takes, get them off the land. That's his job. That's why he was pursuing things with such remorseless pursuit of determination. Big Mama said, clean my land up. So they neutralized him by putting him in prison. And then they sent infiltrators into the El Rookins in order to undermine the remaining of or what they call the remnant of the structure. They trying to tear it all down. They can't tear it down because they didn't build it. Angel Bay, the only one can tear it down. His soldiers as loyal today as they was when they arrested him 40-something years ago.
So he's been in that long.
Larry been in there for over 50. And Tukey, they use the same case they used to convict Geronimo Pratt, just change the location from a house to a store. Use the same police to do the same with the same MO. Right? So
with them being at the continuity of government location, does that mean they're no longer in the custody of the of the government, or does it mean that they still are, but they're I'm just
okay? So this is what it looked like on paper. On paper, it looked like Tukey dead. It looked like Angel Bay and Jeff Ford is in prison in Colorado AdMax. That's what it looked like on paper. But the continuity of government is falling under the jurisdiction of the Indigenous Rights Act of 2017. They know what's going on and they know what's taking place. They just have to steer the narrative and stay in power as long as they can, because once they over with. So in the media, they painting the narrative that Trump crazy, that there was no attempt to steal the 2020 election, that Hunter Biden is a victim of Russian disinformation and propaganda, that Hillary Clinton really wasn't Hillary Clinton, right? So they painting all this in the public. Now got to turn around and start telling you piece by piece that they lied. Because once they entered into the record, the Hunter Biden laptop in the public media, that was the straw that broke the bull's back. That's the one that's going to make all of the dominoes fall. Because it's going to prove that it's not Russian disinformation. They falsely accused Trump of collusion with Russians. Trump went and got the certificate that was held by the World Court from Thailand for our gold so that we can reestablish what we call our family bank system. This is why we didn't have central banks. And what they didn't tell you, now when you watch a Western, you have a little wood hut that's a bank out in the middle of nowhere in the village. That wasn't the bank. The bank was what they called the big house, which was Big Mama House. Big House was short for Big Mama House. And in some parts of the land, it was Big Papa House because he was living longer than Big Mama. Right? So the Big Mama House is where we kept blocks of gold and lots of coal. The black and the gold colors of the Vice Lord Nation is representative of the wealth that comes from Big Mama House. So they told us they stole all of the gold out of Fort Knox. We've been keeping gold in Fort Knox for thousands of years. That's nothing new. They seized Fort Knox when they came over here and took all of the gold to the Far East to hold it in abeyance so we wouldn't reclaim it before the contract expired.
Which we did not.
Right. So when somebody come along and answer the right question, who did it, why they done it, where they came from, and who was involved, that takes the shackles off to the president to recover the gold certificate. The gold certificate is the voucher to reclaim the gold. Right? So I did a video a couple years ago called the $1 Trillion Buyback Program. So the only way to keep everybody from suffering for the next 30 years on the fall of the government is we had to establish a $1 trillion buyback program to buy back in. Don't buy stock, buy the stock market. So the royal families of the earth agreed to buy the stock market, the international stock exchange, and all bonds associated therewith. Those names of straw men on those bonds become the heirs to receive the bond payment for which they was originally held as reprisal for a debt. So your social security number is your tracking number that ties you to the amount of money that you can have. And it was being traded on the international stock market using your birth certificate as the savings bond to accrue the interest.
But you have a lot of folks trying to get hold of that. They can say that is it the Sister Q Trust account and the red numbers on the back of the Social Security.
They won't be able to access it solo for real. They got a system in place to trap the ones trying to access it on their own. It's a trap. They're going to run a bait and switch on them and lock their ass up for fraud if they get too close. That's how they do it.
There are some, though, there are few out there that claim that they have actually tapped into it now, whether that's true or not, or whether or not they've let a few do it just so that it will draw others into that trap.
Well, if you go back to Senate Bill 191 on the bankruptcy, we ain't supposed to pay for nothing. So this is when you navigating the contract. If you know how to navigate the contract, it didn't have nothing to do with you. You're not supposed to pay for nothing. But when you took the contract, when you fought for civil rights, that means that you fought to have the contract attributed to you under the civil rules of civil conduct.
And it should not, right?
We ain't got nothing to do with civics. Personally, we are what you call the de jure. We not de facto. The civics application is supposed to be for the indentures who fall under the de facto jurisdiction of the corporation. In other words, agents of the corporation can be dealt with by the rules and regulations of the corporation.
So when Noble Drew Ali taught civics, was he teaching civics in order to enlighten his people, our people, as to what we needed to know, as opposed as it referred to them, rather than us to operate under a
Okay,
civic?
so look at the structure of the teaching. Let's take Taj and let's take trying to think of a different teaching that's different. So Taj teach how to navigate the contract, what the words mean, how do you use this in law. This is the understanding of how civics work. Now remember, Noble Drew Ali said, I can't take these people out of power till you learn how to run your own government. The study of civics is teaching you how they run in their government, and it's supposed to trigger you to remember that this ain't the government of your people. This is not how we run government. Our government, like for instance, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, if it was being properly ran by our people, the first question of any research done is, how will it affect the children? That's the first question. If I give this to this mother, how will it affect her children? And any negative effects on that, we can't use that. We can't do that. Well, they have something under the corporation called acceptable loss. It's a way to benefit using insurance to pad your losses, to turn your losses into wins. So what's an apparent loss to them is actually a payout. So they trading birth certificates and death certificates.
Mm-hmm.
They capitalizing off our birth joy and off our death tragedy.
I went to the GMEI utility site and put the Social Security assigned to me number in, and the Social Security number assigned to my mother, who transitioned in 2002. And to this day, it was just maybe a few days ago, maybe last week, that birth certificate still being traded on all over the world. I noticed some of the ones in like Dusseldorf have become inactive. It was funny, but all over the world, I mean, there might be like, maybe it was like either 1,100 or 11,000 transactions, 1,100, that are still active. And she transitioned in 2002. I have
now,
about
remember, somebody in your family, she gonna come back as. The clock of destiny is the way that you track when she coming back and who she gonna be. They already know how to use it. So the death certificate is a countermeasure to the birth certificate. It keeps the birth certificate able to continuously be being traded until it's switched out with the new birth certificate on the return of the elder.
Really?
Yeah, they good with that shit. That's part of their Babylonian money magic system. They generate money out of thin air because we breathe life into the air when we exhale.
So is there money out of thin air? Is that like the mints that are just printing so-called money, like it's monopoly stuff, just new game, new money. Is that how they're doing it?
Right. So that's so that they can steal the value without you ever knowing what they're doing, using something called inflation. This is done under what they call fractional reserve banking. Under fractional reserve banking, they can borrow $100 from you, and then they use it for collateral to borrow $100,000 or $1 million off that 100. Right now, because you put $100 in your bank account, they can lend $100,000 out.
And that's why they get a little seem to have they get testy when you want to take it out.
Right, because when you take out your money, they have to cash in a bond.
Okay.
And when they have to cash in the bond, if it isn't matured yet, a penalty comes with it. And let's say the mortgage fraud. So all of the banks are going to be seized for mortgage fraud and for usury. Excessive interest on the dollar.
Right.
Right. You're not supposed to charge interest on a direct loan. You're only supposed to charge interest on what they call a third-party loan. That means if I have you borrow some money from somebody in order to lend me some money, you have to charge me interest.
Okay.
I'm the third party. That means that you giving me a fee to use your credit, a cosigner. Right? So that's how you're supposed to do interest. But they have the inflation. The inflation is affected by the interest rate. You remember when Greenspan was in the Fed, he used to be over here every year readjusting the interest rate.
Right.
That was saying how much you're going to be able to buy with a single dollar. You remember when bread was $0.25 a loaf?
I remember when it was cheap.
I bet you can't find one for under $1.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can find one for $1. I don't think, maybe let's try like not one under $2.
Right. So that's inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Everything on top of that original quarter is inflation.
Because it's a quarter then, and it was for the same amount and whatever, it really should still be that.
Right.
But what they've done now, they have reduced the sizes of things and increased the price of them.
Right. So you get less for your purchase power.
Yeah.
So now what they doing is they stealing your money through attrition model. An attrition model means a gradual buildup. So a person that made $50,000 in 81, he gonna live like a person that made $2,000 in 81 on that same 50,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
Lifestyle change. They pushing the ceiling down on poverty using inflation. It's a deception. It's a grand deception. Everything they doing, it's an underlying deception attached to it. And when you try to use their system to break from the deception, they have another piece of their system designed to funnel you back into the system.
So what do we do?
Go back to our original ways.
How do we find out what our original ways are?
We got to remember that our tradition is oral tradition. The more of us to make an oral statement in the public domain declaring our organic nature, our organic connection to the land over here, the stronger our tribes become, because now we have the people waking up to the reality that everything that you do with paperwork is designed to trap you in a paper chain of adhesion contracts. What they call them take it or leave it contracts. Right? So you, in order to get gas to your house, you have to sign a contract. Right? And then they send you a bill. The bill is acknowledgement of the payment rendered. Dollar bill, gas bill. You can spend a dollar bill, you're supposed to be able to spend the gas bill on gas.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know how it worked because they never taught us. This is why Noble Drew Ali say learn civics. Because only in civics could you see the deception, because they use legalese to people who don't speak legalese. That's why ignorance of the law is no excuse. They use your ignorance for capital gain.
I guess it just seems to me that, since we do still to this day have those Moors that look like us, but we're not us, being disruptive, being what we call COINTELPRO and all that, they whoever they're working for, it is to keep us divided and not to bring us together. It just is a matter, and then you have that whole group that has no clue that the government is de facto. They don't know anything about being a Moor or anything else, an indigenous person, or or anything. That's where I think the greater majority falls in that. They don't know anything, and so they know the church, they know this, that, and the third, but they don't know these things. And then the way to get that information out is controlled by the opposition. So it's very hard, even in platforms like this, sometimes to keep to get certain information out without it being something that is deemed a violation of whatever, when all you're really trying to do is bring the truth.
We have to stop worrying about trying to transgress their law, because the Supreme Court ruled that the indigenous people was perpetual enemies of the state, and that they can treat them in whatever manner they treat an enemy of the state. That's already settled in the Supreme Court of the United States.
We are perpetual enemies of the state.
Yes.
So with that being said, then you run up against a brick wall unless the people begin to come together. And I'm always making appeals out there to listeners. I'm saying, if you work for some of these companies that you're creating, you got what do you call it? Like the internet not the content, but the platforms. You got to have an engine, and you got to have why aren't we creating our own things, our own? I mean, I know our form of communication was telepathy and drums and the mouth.
We actually been trained, but you got to remember, any one of us that try to do something that big, if they had a sufficient amount of suspicion that would be successful in reaching the people, they did either two things: defamed them and locked them up, or murdered them outright.
Which is true. So what do we do? I mean, I don't keep saying that, because I mean, at the end of the day, what we need are solutions. We need solutions. I mean, everybody's throwing this, that, there, and that, but what
right.
do we need?
So the solution to the problem right now is awakening to the grassroots. This is where the issue is stuck at, in the grassroots. The leadership across the land is already unified. It's just that the people got to realize that this is about to happen so that it can happen. The people don't realize it yet.
Sharing this video as far as you can.
That's
other videos that you've done to get it out to for people to see it, and then start asking questions, and just having discussion groups with your meetings with your with your kinfolk, things that you can do, even if it's a small group of 5 or 2, but like the old each one teach one, each one reach one. We need to do something in order to get on one accord with this. And that to me seems like the issue. We gather together, but we're not assembled together. In other words, to me, when I think of assembly, I think of a puzzle with pieces. You could throw the 1,000 puzzle piece on the table, and it's gathered. But until it's assembled, you don't have the full picture.
Right.
And that's what we are. We're like 1,000 pieces, millions of billions pieces of puzzle pieces thrown on the table of life, but not assembled together. And that's the only way I see from my finite mind that we can even begin to tackle this monumental task of freeing ourselves from something that we've been entrained in for so long. I mean, folks are literally, you don't even know sometimes that you've been entrained and hypnotized. What did the Pope say? Give me the child for the first 7 years, and I'll show you the man. Or they said, even train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart. And we got a lot of folks that have been trained, and it's hard, if you will, to crack that nut. They're not letting any new info in.
Right, because they took sides with a doctrine that doesn't serve their interests, because the doctrine has something called a persuasive argument attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop arguing doctrine and just start asking for receipts first and foremost. That's why I put all those receipts. Like when you go down my page ain't regular. Them all receipts. Some of them you gotta be intuitive enough to read them like a tarot card, but some of them is an outright statement. Some of them is book references to tell you where to find certain stuff. Right? Even my videos is the receipt. When I'm telling you, look up the words I'm using. Look up when I say look up fractional reserve banking so you'll know what it is. Then you know how they're stealing your money. Right? Look up the difference in get you a Black's Law dictionary, and go in there and look at what the word used to be and what it is today. It's not the same.
Right.
When you can see the evolution of the terms change, then you can see the corralling of the mind. Right? Like today, we say more, it's a catch-all. Anybody that look like us is classified now as a Moor. Good Moor, dirty Moor don't matter. They still a Moor. But when you go back before 1492, ain't nobody over here called Moor.
Now, so we have to unlearn some stuff, and for a lot of folks, they were like, "Look, Dag, I just got out of being Negro and becoming Black, and I just went to, and I thought more was the thing." Well, we have to be open to change. You have to be open to progressive knowledge. And I mean, one thing about me is I've never been stuck anywhere that I couldn't get out of mentally. If me being a pastor, in ministry for 25 years and a pastor for 10 of those last 10, and then when Chew slapped me upside the head, I just like, oops, gotta leave that. I mean, I've never, I'm not the kind, but not some folks are not that easily moved out of their entrainment, and so in their indoctrination, and so it becomes difficult because in their minds what they're doing has helped them, but if they really looked at it critically, they're like it's like they're in a rut that they're just digging deeper. They really haven't going up, they haven't ascended, they're going down.
You remember it's a chapter in the Circle 7 called Misery. It started out, weak and insufficient as thou art, O man, and good. There is one thing in which thou art obstinate and moveth not, and his name is misery. Because of the suffering, we latch on to the suffering. Because we are empathetic people, when we believe that something drastic has happened to our people, we're going to ride that suffering out. Right? Because that's our grievance.
Mm-hmm.
Is our people is got a very unique characteristic. I don't want to see you going through nothing I don't want to go through. And if I come across you dealing with something that I don't want to deal with, I'm going to do everything I can to enlighten you on how to change what you're going through so you can be in a less traumatic situation. Each one teach one. This is where it come from. If I don't want you to go through nothing I don't want to, why would I inflict it upon you and force you to go through it? That's the enemy's perspective. That's what his agenda is. He's using your energy to harvest. He's putting you through the stuff he don't want to go through, and you so caught on the misery and the empathy of the misery that you attach to the suffering while he reaping the benefit.
Yeah, you're right, but I mean, like I said, but at the end of the day, it's all about how we can come together and stop fighting each other, and everyone has to ask him or herself, what is my motivation? Everybody wants, if we get great ideas, and I'm an idea factory, but one thing I come to realize is that even though I have a lot of what I think are damn good ideas, they're not all for me to put into effect. Right. I'm not supposed to execute them all, but I am supposed to share them. Somebody else has to pick that one up. But if it's coming through me I call myself the idea factory, then I should give it freely, because at the end of the day, it's going to be beneficial. So if somebody gets some kind of financial gain from it, fine. But larger, if it's helping us as a whole, then that's the important thing, knowing that we can't do everything. You sprinkle seeds out there, and like I said, one plants, another waters, and we used to say in church, and God gives the increase to it. But it's the same thing. You may not have your name on everything that is good that comes out of this, but at least you gave your positive energy to it, and it's going to benefit the whole. And I think some folks are afraid of not getting their just due, or their just, they want their 15 minutes of
Listen,
fame.
our culture teaches us this. Whatever you can do to contribute to the collective, if you do that, the collective will make sure you're taken care of, because it's a mutual exchange of benefit.
Mm-hmm.
But anything that you do that only serves your own interest and has no benefit to anybody other than one person, the community never supports that. Right? So why do we buy music?
Why do we?
Music is our culture. It's a critical part of our culture. We can talk through the music what we can't say openly regular. Right? So you a producer, Tracy Chapman. You're a producer, Bob Marley. You're a producer, Sam Cooke. And you produce the OJs and the Temptations. And we know we got a message in the music. Somebody got to remind us it's a message in the music. Because when we can't talk politically in the realm of politics, when we can't talk because somebody got us stifled in politics. Politics is a well-controlled and well-organized scam.
But if you break that word down into the two words, it is poly, many, ticks, bloodsuckers. It's right what it says, just what it is.
And right there in the word.
It's right there.
So just be your best self, and make your interests also serve the interests of the most people you can. Some people can only muster up enough inner light to serve 10 people in their lifetime. But those 10 people might go on to serve tens of thousands each because of that contribution. Because you did your part, you've affected tens of thousands just by teaching those 10. Right? Each one teach one, we all gonna reach some. Right? So when we understand what's going on the land, the more of the mothers, really, it's more important that the mothers get this information than anybody else, because it's they shit. The sisters got what you call first right to the earth right, which is the earth-born birthright. Earth is a feminine planet, and it's supposed to be ruled under matriarchy. The mitochondrial in the woman is also found in the soil of the earth. Right? That's because the woman is tied to the earth through mitochondrial, and she blesses the man to have mitochondrial as well. Right? And the love of the women ties into the love of the child's mother that's performing the function to make his mitochondria produce more output, which raises his consciousness to higher levels. This is what they call, what do you say, raise yourself to infinite wisdom. Right? That's what he's talking about. Make your service, make the mothers so proud that they all want their sons or their daughter to be like you. And when you get the respect of the mothers, you change the landscape. Just by them feeling in their heart that somebody came that can see the problem to get us out, changes the vibrational frequency, and then it make the bloodsuckers start running the other way because they can't tolerate love energy. They become violent, aggressive, and most of the time it be inflicted upon themselves.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm trying to keep myself, like I said, my brain is racing and all, you always think, but I'm thinking back in terms of when you hear folks say, you chose to be here in this time. We make those determinations as to whether or not we're going to incarnate at a certain time to be in the earth realm, which is like the prison planet and the university all in one. So we chose to be here. So if we chose to be here, we knew or we felt that we could make a difference, whether it be in our suffering or in our joy, whatever success or lack thereof, that it was going to make a difference. Because who would pick something so horrible, if you will, as a time of what we've seen, unless we knew that the outcome was positive. That in the
Right.
end,
So just like when you're going out, your past life flashed before your eyes.
mm-hmm.
When you coming in, your future life is laid out before your face. You would know how to navigate it better if they didn't shine them bright ass lights on you in the delivery room. Cause you're supposed to birth a child in ambient light. This is why we need our doula centers back.
Mm-hmm.
They took all the doula centers and turned them into hospitality places. The places of hospitality to us used to be the whorehouse. So now we prostitute ourselves for medical research and don't even know it. That's why they always practicing, because they don't know what they're doing.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's why they so quick to snatch out uterus and chop off breasts. They call that desecration of the holy places. Each one of the women, when they self-realize, is a holy place. She is an entire temple dedicated to creation itself.
Churches are laid out as a woman's holy place. You know, when you coming down the aisle or going into the, you know, so yeah,
And
they have.
Dr. Bean tell it like this. He said, heaven is between the the legs of the black woman. That's what Dr. Bean tell you, because ain't nobody get in to earth without going through the portal of life.
True.
They can make many trans testicles as they want to. They can get them artificial everything. But when that womb of a natural born woman is going to naturally produce what they science is trying to reproduce.
Speaking of which, I just saw. Thank you, Sister Fariel L. I know she's in the chat. She turned me on to yesterday to an season 10 of American Horror Story on Hulu, and so I looked at the last 4 episodes, episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I think I shared just a little teeny bit with you. But in that, since you mentioned that, in that they have gone so far, they have this like this so-called experimentation, because they were trying to put hybrids on the earth that were part alien, and part human, and replace all the humans.
We all hybrids.
But this is what this thing. But they were impregnating men as well as women. So men their stomachs were growing in. So the one guy, like, how is this thing going to come out? And basically it was cesarean. You know, they cut the stomach open.
Okay, now what that's telling you is it's a parasite.
Well, it came out like the alien movie with the thing that popped. So.
It's a parasite. Men don't have a uterus. Men can't naturally have children and carry a baby to gestate.
Well,
but a parasite can grow under your skin without distinguishing your gender.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is look up bot flies, and it'll be in men and women, dogs and cats. It's a parasite.
Bot flies.
B-O-T, bot fly.
Oh, bot fly. Okay.
Yep. If you look them up on YouTube, you'll see them pull the parasite out, and they be in cats, they be in dogs, they be in people. But it's a fly lays egg under the skin, and it grows under the skin, and it becomes a huge node. They got to pull it out or let it mature and fly out on its own. But by the end, it be cause you so many problems that you probably won't make it through the body's attempt to discard the bot fly.
And that's funny. Not strange. It's called a bot fly because almost you think of robots or something that's not human or whatever. But yeah, but they're and that for those of you who have not seen that, America again, I guess, thank you, Sister Fariel L. But that episode, season 10, episodes 7, 8, and 9, they're really, I was telling you, dropping real historical information. It's Eisenhower, who was his vice president? I think it was Nixon. After JFK is in it, and the other one,
LBJ.
Marilyn Monroe, all the stuff we saw happen, and it's it's tied in with some really wild stuff. You just got to see it to fathom it. But we know that they put truth out in movies. They mix it with fiction, but it's a lot of truth in there, and they'll sometimes make things seem so incredulous. And you're like, oh, that was just you need to look at it with a more critical eye, because there are, it's a karmic thing for them. Like we told them, they may think it's entertainment, but we told them. We don't have to tell them that we're telling them. We put it in movies. We are the entertainment industry. And that's what I was trying to say. All these things, these distractions, looking at shows and series, it's always been tied, to mind control.
Yeah, well, they did a movie in the 50s about the CIA infiltrating the news media. I'm not sure if it was the Maltese Falcon or another movie, but it's a famous movie from the 50s, and it's about they learned it from Operation Paperclip. It was a Hitler propaganda technique, because they didn't know how to use media for propaganda at that time. That's why when you go back and you look at old clips of people talking in lectures from the 50s, they telling you the flat out truth. Whereas you listen to them in the 70s and the 60s, now they starting to tell you bald-faced lies as if you're too stupid to see through it.
Many were. Many were. Yeah, many were. Are you up for, before we close, are you up for some questions? Because there have been questions that, I don't know if you were looking at the chat, but there were some questions that popped up. I know there was one question that was up a couple of times asking you to explain further about who Big Mama is. And when I hear you say Big Mama, it seems like you're calling Big Mama in the etheric realm is sort of like Gaia, or like you say, the mother of everything, and then Big Mama, like everybody has a Big Mama,
So
too.
everybody's Big Mama is a replica of Prime Creator.
Okay.
Right? We all know her because she flat out tell you what she feels. She don't care. Fuck your feelings. I'm gonna tell you, you need to go wash your stinking ass. Right? I don't care if you get your feelings hurt. I shouldn't have never had to tell you. Right? Or Big Mama say, that's not how you raise that child. If you raise that child that way, you're gonna have a predator when you get older. Right? Big Mama.
Right.
The one take her shoe off and throw it across the room and bop you upside your head when you ain't listening. Big Mama. She behaves that way because she's the embodiment in the physical form of Prime Creator, who be telling you what's right, and don't have no regard for your emotions, because your emotions is only your navigation system. You ain't supposed to live in your emotions. You're supposed to read them. They telling you something. Are they in context or are they not in context? Right? So Big Mom, Joe used certain kind of ways to move your emotions into the right position. Right? Are you coachable? Big Mama gonna let you know if you're coachable, because she gonna keep telling you what to do in such a rude manner. If you take it personal, you're gonna feel some type of way. But if you realize her character, she ain't gonna never tell you nothing that's gonna hurt you. Everything she tell you, if you listen to her, it's gonna be for your betterment and your upliftment, and for you to raise the children in a better way than you was raised. It might have took her grandkids to find out where she made her mistakes as a parent. Now she can tell you, I did that when y'all was growing up, but y'all can't do that with this generation because it's not required. It's outdated now. Right? Because I've seen this happen over the years, and this is where we at now. So we, instead of teaching them sports all the time, we need to buckle down academically. Right? Big Mama tell you the wise things. And when you run across them, you know them, because everything they say be so spot on, you just don't like the way she said it. But that ain't her business for you to like it. Her business is to tell you the truth.
Right.
Now, some big mamas, they call mud deer.
Mm.
Mud deer is just as mean, but she talk to you a little nicer than big mama. That's the only difference. Because she grew up from a priestess stock, she understands the nature of people from a different angle than the one that grew up as the heir to the throne, who had to be mean to keep the riffraff away. Right? So when you hear the youth talking about, I don't want to go to Big Mama house, them the ones that's going to be errant. You already know. Why you don't want to go to Big Mama house? Because she going to make me be still. You got to learn how to be still when it's time to be still and move when it's time to move. Big Mama know nobody's not teaching you that, baby, so she has to teach it to you. That's why she tell you to sit down and be still while she letting the rest of the kids play, because you the one need to learn how to sit down and be still before you step your ass in some shit you can't get out of. You know? But we don't know how to read our women no more because they took that out of us. Now we got to be macho. We got to give orders all day. We drill sergeants in the house for the system. And don't let me bring up domestic violence, which I call it a hostage situation disguised as a love affair.
Here's a question.
She want to leave, but she can't leave because if she try to leave, he gonna beat her ass. That's a hostage.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of women are stuck in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw something play out over the last couple of weeks. With the nature boy, and not one but a whole gaggle of women down, who were following that kind of abuse. And I actually interviewed him back in like 2015 or 16 when he was in Costa Rica or wherever on my radio show back then. And so just to see the involvement in control that women would subject themselves to. There was no big mama teaching them what you take and don't take. How you don't do that, dear. Maybe
that's how we get caught up in cults.
And yeah.
We get caught up in cults because we don't want to listen to Big Mama.
Mm. So someone was saying that are you saying that Noble Drew Ali was incorrect calling us Moorish Americans?
We was being called Moorish Americans by the enemy already. He had to tell us how to get back to our organic status. He got to write a blueprint, a step-by-step codified blueprint that's heavily coded so that when one of the chiefs decoded, it could tell us how to get out of the trap without getting our heads bit off.
So when he said that, I mean, would that go right hand in hand even with using what seemed like the church model initially? Because a lot of the folks that he was appealing,
his original model wasn't the church model.
Well, weren't there a lot of people coming out of the church, from the church into this movement?
Right, but it's still what the model wasn't the same as a church model. The original model of the Moorish Science Temple was predicated up on a fraternity, like a college fraternity, a brotherhood. Because in the system that we had superimposed on us, the only way where we can operate is we had to form a brotherhood with secret rituals. Okay. Right? And once he established that, that's what you call the establishment of the adept chambers. But the adept chambers is not in a building. It's in the public domain.
Really?
Because he put all of the secrets out in the open so that the chiefs across the land can read them. You got to go back to his history to know where he got the secrets from. He got the secrets from the Moorish Zionist Temple in New Jersey, who was the dirty Moors behind the dirt that was being done to our people.
So is this prior to him forming the MSTA, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They used the 6-point star on a red flag. So he used the 5-point star on the red flag. They formed, or they split up into 2 organizations that we think are pale-skinned Jewish organizations, but they're not. One is called the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, and the other one is called the Jewish Defense League, the JDL. The Jewish Defense League is a paramilitary group, and they wear fezzes, and some of them grand sheiks in temples.
But again, it looks like they have others out in front that don't look like them and don't look like us that we think are the leaders of this. I mean, how about things like the formation of the NAACP that was said was formed by Jews, you know?
Right. It was formed by Jews, but it wasn't formed by the people they told you it was formed by. It was formed by the same ADL, JDL collaboration for the purposes of being able to control what go on in our community and what we are privy to. Our job on the land is to infiltrate that motherfucker. And the first one of us that we got in power in the NAACP, we had a lot of them get to the board, but nobody could get to the chairman position until a guy named, I think his name was something like Kwesi Mfume.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first one of us that ever got the main seat at the NAACP. That's when they wanted to stop allowing them to take parts in our programs, because one of us then got the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they've been phased out in our community. When us got the driver's seat, they got to cut us off.
So what about the Southern Poverty Law Center that puts out all of this propaganda about Moors being sovereign citizens and all of that?
Slave catchers.
What do you mean by that?
They slave catchers. Moors are not sovereign citizens.
Right, we know that, but they're feeding information to all of the sheriffs and the law enforcement agencies that put out bulletins and, you know.
Look, the ones who are successful in interacting with them are not tied to the Moorish Saints Temple. They tied to a tribe.
Oh, okay.
They tied to one of the tribes on the land. We just got to try it back up by families.
But for a lot of people, they don't know. They don't even know. It's funny, you know. I'm looking back. My dad just transitioned in February, but when I say ask Dad where he was from, my dad told me back in the. He said, "I'm a Blackfoot Indian." He's born in Georgia, born and raised in Buena Vista, Georgia. And I said, "Why, Dad? Why you say that? Because you got black feet?" I didn't even know there was a Blackfoot Indian, so-called Indian tribe.
Yeah, they are a Iroquois sub-tribe. Some of the bigger tribes is made up of smaller tribes.
Mm-hmm.
The branches of the Iroquois Nation is Crow, Blackfoot, I think Choctaw. It's a few more of them. Most of the Seminoles. Okay, so when we come to your land, our chief got to meet your chief and say, "Hey, we coming to give you aid, render aid and assistance." Then they exchange gifts. Then they smoke the peace pipe. Then they go to give a daughter to the chief from each clan. They exchange daughters. This is called tying the blood ties. Now, no matter what happened, I'm not turning on you and you not turning on me, because we family for real now.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter married your son and my son married your daughter. So now whatever happened, all of the chiefs know we ain't finna back down from that agreement. Because I'm not going to give my daughter up just because I want to infiltrate you. We don't operate that way, but the enemy does. That's why Elijah Muhammad said the last trick of the devil would be to freely give you his woman. The only way you can tell his woman is because she don't take care of the yoni. That's sacred in our culture. All of our women tell us boys when we growing up, If she stink up the room, don't touch it. Right? That's our culture. That they culture not like that. So she don't have to take care of her portal. In our culture, it's mandatory. That's one of the first things that the women start teaching their daughter early about her body. You know, don't nobody supposed to touch you down there. If anybody touch you down there, you're supposed to tell mommy or daddy. Period. Right? So she's starting to learn respect for her body at an early age. We teach the same thing differently to the boys, but that's taught by the men.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that goes on anymore. Yeah.
We don't have those rites of passage in play anymore.
No, we don't.
That's been replaced with a 12-step thinking detoxification program called school.
Mm-hmm.
And the word school is a Yiddish word from the Yiddish word shul, S-H-O-O-L, which came from the Hebrew word sheol, which is S-H-E-O-L. And we all know if we read the book that sheol is hell.
Hell is hell. That's what I'm saying.
So we sending our kids to hell. We feeding them to the beast.
Oh my. Y'all hear that?
So if you study Dr. Amos Wilson, he'll say, how in the hell can you let your enemy educate your child and expect to be to rise up out of the condition? He only gonna teach your child what's required to keep him in that condition.
Absolutely.
It's the same with Carter G. Woodson, the miseducation of the Negro, tell you the same thing. If you control the way a man think, you need not worry about his actions. Right? So once we understand that the mind of the oppressed is the greatest weapon of the oppressor, then we know to pull our children out of a system of miseducation so that we can properly educate them.
That's true. Wow.
History books before 1900 don't tell the same story as history books after. And that's why they cost so much more. Not because because it's a lot of them. But they cost more because you have to pay the cost to be the boss. You got to pay the price to get the knowledge required to break free. Right?
Yeah.
So I done paid the cost. That's why the money don't move me, because I know the system is fraudulent. And the next thing to fall is the money system. The money system and the media is the next two things to fall. The media, you're going to know they fail when you got new faces telling you the truth.
Yeah, well, it's starting to happen slowly, and I hear all the time about the viewership in some of these major outlets, how much it has dropped. It's because folks aren't like, no, they realize they could turn any channel on and hear exactly the same thing because it was like, this was scripted. Everybody's saying the same thing, and they've showed it. Yeah,
all of the news.
Yeah, saying the same thing at the same time, different news.
This is why they only all of the news get their news from two places. They get it from the Reuters News Service or the Associated Press. That's it. The CIA created both of them.
But that they said there's some main players, but there's only a couple, like maybe, I think it was like 6 owners of all of these major outlets are owned by, say, just a handful, 5 or 6 people. I think he's dead now, but Rupert Murdoch was one, and there was different ones that had these outlets, and they're the ones, and so they just shoot out, like you said, a release, and everybody reads. I mean, they even have folks read the release.
It don't matter who putting the release out. It can only come in and be put on the news through 2 places: Reuters and Associated Press.
Okay.
So let's say that you have a news TV station and you want today's news. You don't go out in the street and look for a story. You're not an investigative reporter. Investigative reporters work for Reuters and Associated Press. So they sell their stories to them. Then the CIA screen them and say, put this out in the public domain. Just that simple. None of this stuff that we getting is haphazard. It's all orchestrated and planned. We believe that when the news report on the story that is local and it only affects that our news people found out some news. Right? And
Right.
the big story is the story that play out on all of the channels. Right.
Yeah, just like most recently, like the slap that was heard around the world while you missed what was happening on the Senate floor. What was exposed on the Senate
So
floor.
when the slap came about, it was two things taking place. It was the beginning of the Ukrainian invasion. It was the opening up of the Hunter Biden laptop in the evidence.
Right.
Right? Because now, once this start rolling out, it's gonna bring in the Podesta files, which got the Frazzle Drip video of Hillary. Right? Then they're gonna find out from the Podesta files that John Benet Ramsey, that Podesta was there and Ghislaine Maxwell was there when she got murdered. Why was they there? And why is that they MO everywhere they go? Somebody's little daughter didn't raped and killed. That's not a coincidence, because it happens too often. Right? So this lady had to go around worrying about the rest of her kids for the rest of her life, because if she tell what happened to her daughter, they gonna do that to the worse to the rest of her kids. That's some foul shit. You know, don't no mother want to have to carry that burden, keeping the secret of who killed one of your children to keep the rest of your children alive and safe.
Yeah. Some deep stuff.
Yeah.
It's so many things. So I don't know what they want to know about this, but somebody has put in here like about no less than 10 times to ask you about secured party creditor. I don't know what they want you to say about that.
That's a trap. Secured party creditor, UCC1 is all uniform commercial code regulated adhesion contract scenarios.
So it's a trap, is what you're saying.
It's a trap. It worked for a while till they get tired of your ass telling people. Then they charge you with fraud for doing it and lock your ass up. So a couple hundred guys in the federal joint right now for it that got pulled out of the state for trying to use it to get free from prison that I knew personally.
Really?
It wasn't that they was, it wasn't that they was wrong. It's a loophole they can't close. So they got an alternative. Any mistake made in the paperwork is considered a fraud. If you forget to dot an I across the T, it turns the whole paperwork into an action of fraud. It's a trap. And it no longer applies anyway because the corporation is defunct. Washington, D.C. is closed.
We see in the movie.
That's all we seeing. They playing out White House scripts from Castle Rock Studios. Senate scripts is playing out from some other building that ain't the Senate building. Nobody ain't even noticed the decor being different. The size of the ceiling is lower. Ain't no balcony for all of the delegates to be in there. We ain't noticed none of that. We just watching them talk, thinking that they telling us the truth. And they talking to us with double speak. It's a politician every politician got to learn double speak. Just like you got legalese, you got medical leagues, and then you got political leagues. The political language is double speak. Tell the people one thing means something different. That's why the elders told us pale face speak with forked tongue. That means he telling you what he want to tell you, and then he telling you what he told to tell you. He's telling you two different things at the same time. And if you listen to him, pale face speak with forked tongue, one tongue telling the truth, the other one telling the bald-faced lie. That's always to keep us at constantly off guard, off balance. We always falling back and can't quite get our bearings as to what's taking place. Because every time we get to the bottom of one lie, they tell us 1,000 more to sift through.
Right. The Black Zionist says, I live in DC. Let me put it up here. I live in DC, but it still looks open.
DC is closed. Matter of fact, They just made it public that they evacuated the what's the building, the Senate building, the State House, whatever the fuck it's called. That they made it public that they evacuated it about 2 or 3 days ago.
Really?
Yeah,
They evacuated like
now,
it's a threat, or they're
no.
just
So
now.
this is the cover story to let the people know why DC closed. They're saying they're preparing for a Russian attack.
Okay.
That's what they're saying. They preparing for a Russian attack. Russian about much thinking about us is me and you thinking about giving Putin a birthday present. And he ain't crossed my mind till they brought up Russia. So you know I wasn't finna buy him no birthday present. Russia ain't thinking about us. I posted that 1.5 years ago. As soon as they tell you that we about to go to war with Russia or China, they lying. The deep state got private militaries on all land masses, masquerading as contingents of the real military.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be a flag that's not true.
False flag.
I'm just trying not to say that, but no. But yeah. So, I have someone who said that the story of JBR, John Bonet wasn't true. Let me see. Let me go back. You find it, which I kind of saw it now. Don't see it. Like it was a test to see how far where'd it go? Go. JBR is fictitious character based on Snow White / Virgin Blind archetype. Her dad was an early creator and tester of CGI, worked for the agency to propagandize to public in order to harvest louche.
That they talk, I'm not familiar with what they talking about, but I know that her mother was also sex trafficked as a child. That's how they had ties into the sex trafficking ring. They normally, the ones who they traffic that they put into society.
I think we don't want to say those words too much because some of them trigger words. But I know what you're talking about. So
right. So the ones that they put in society, they always attach them to somebody they trying to control.
Right.
Right. So it wouldn't be too far off for that to be true, to a certain degree. But they did murder that little girl.
Well, there's a book. If you've never heard of it, it's called. It's a PDF. It's available called "Thanks for the Memories." And if you Google or "Thanks for the Memories," that book it talks all about that type of thing. And what you're talking about, one young lady in particular, she was as a baby, she was actually in that situation. Her father started to, her to do that to her. And then she was, according to her book, she was actually trafficked out she had a handler. And that person, I'm calling him a person, we talked about earlier about why he's not dead, he's still alive. And the reason why she called it Thanks for the Memories was because she said that she was sold to Mr. Hope, Bob, who that's his famous song. But he also says that as a child, at 12, she was flown in to the White House to pillow talk with the then JFK. And they told her when he was going to be taken out. So it wasn't just Maryland.
Well, it was a buzz that was real heavy with Secret Service and with the CIA leading up to that the old man Bush and LBJ was collaborating to change the president because he wasn't playing ball. That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
That was also, when they say he wasn't playing ball, it was also in reference to Fidel Castro and the Cuban Revolution and the missile crisis. Because Fidel Castro was an American baseball player in college. And a lot of people don't know that.
So if they're looking for that Thanks for the Memories PDF, it's by someone named Bryce, BRICE Taylor. Very interesting read. It's not interesting as much as it's shocking but it's the stuff that goes on that we're now just finding out about. So wow. Someone says Hollywood's closed, so they hit Studio City. They also doing a lot of stuff in Georgia. Georgia seems to be the new the East Coast Hollywood. A lot of things are taking place in Georgia.
That's Tyler Perry's supposed to be putting us up our own studios to bypass the usury contracts and the 360 contracts and the sex deals for movie parts and all that. So Tyler Perry's job was to build and establish our studios for the people from the land.
Well, okay. Yeah, my middle son has been an extra in some of his movies, and he lives right near. He's not far from the studio, so I'm glad to hear that he's not a part of the problem. I didn't know, because you never know.
Well, they classify him as a huge problem.
They or us?
The system.
Okay. The system.
He's a headache that they can't figure out a way around it, because they can't, all of the frauds that they wanted to hit him with tax evasion, but he was paying his taxes.
Okay.
Right. Then they was going to try the sex scandal. So he portrayed characters where it wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So everything that they was going to use against him, somebody was tipping him off on how to play his hand so he could stay a step ahead of him. I got my suspicion, but I don't know it to be the fact yet.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Let me see. We're gonna 2:20. We're gonna go out in. I'm gonna take a few more questions. If there are actually any questions, I'm kind of looking at some comments. Do the research background and so. Okay. Let me see. Any questions? Y'all? While we got this record keeper. Here.
It's funny you call me that, because that's what I call Todd.
Really? Okay, but you record keeper, Greshik knows a lot. He knows a lot. But I'm saying you and I have spoken. I think the first time we had a conversation, we talked for 2 hours and 18 minutes, and that was an introductory conversation. And the next time I called you for something, I was like, I think I woke you up. An hour plus later, we were still talking. Because the knowledge was coming out, and I just appreciate you, and I appreciate knowledge. Anybody who some of the folks here in the chat appreciate the dearth, if you will, and the breadth of knowledge that you bring, and you're able almost all subjects that are brought up, you are able to speak on it, and that is good. That's a good thing. I mean, you're not stuttering and stammering and saying I think and so forth. But when you can be definitive about what it is you say, and then it's up to each one of us to put it in our own filter. And if it resonates, fine. If it doesn't, it's okay. The truth don't work with everybody.
Well, we're not all supposed to always believe the same thing all the time.
That's right. That's true.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, we'd be cookie cutter.
It's 8.4 billion people on the planet. Can you imagine everybody trying to do the same thing every day? That don't make sense. So everybody ain't supposed to agree with me.
Right.
But they supposed to be triggered to go do some research on their own to find out where I might be missing something, because they might be the missing piece.
Right. Yeah.
The fact that they disagree with me could send them back to get a piece of information that could bridge a gap somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's why we all become equally important. No big eyes, no little U's. No respecter of persons. Right? Mm-hmm. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and you can't dress that motherfucker up however you want it just because you want it to be different. Right is going to still be right, and wrong going to still be wrong.
Right.
We going to still be over here, and we ain't from Rome. And they say all roads lead back to Rome, which is the papal bulls. The papal bulls is the decrees of the Pope to usurp the land, or what they call execute the white man's burden of civilizing the world. But how you gonna civilize somebody that was building monuments you can't even duplicate?
Speaking of monuments and stuff, I do have something I wanted to bring up. You mentioned the World's Fair, and I don't know how many really, we didn't go into depth into that, but I started studying it just recently, like in the last 4 months, 2 or 3 months, not even that far back, about these World Fairs and these orphan trains that were going on around the same time. And these, they had these massive structures that they put in certain places, that they opened World's Fairs in, and they gave the public the illusion or the lie that they had created this just to bring forth technology, more recent technology, when the truth of it is these had existed. Question one, where did the people go that used to inhabit those places? How did they get rid of the real inhabitants of that? That's my first question. And then,
a lot of our major cities like Chicago, Detroit, New Orleans, a couple cities in New Jersey, the people were going to fight the Seminole Wars. So they was leaving the cities going southeast. That's why the largest concentration of us was in the South at the turn of the century.
So
because
the structures were already that. So when you look at these structures, though, that says they put out these old movies about the Wild Wild West and the people going west in the wagon trains and stuff, there were massive buildings and marble and crystal looking places and stuff that existed.
We still have castles all over the land that's thousands of years old. Most of them they turned into major prisons.
Really?
Yeah. Look up Marquette Prison in upstate Michigan in the UP. That used to be a castle. They turned it into a prison.
Wow.
I think San Quentin, there's a couple of them in Pennsylvania that they turned into prisons. Right? Then there's castles that's been vacant. They got caretakers in them, but we left the castles to go fight the war.
And weren't there some of these, like say the middle class at that time was probably the upper class of this time, and they had a lot of their buildings or homes were turned into like orphanages and insane asylums, and they were bringing these children. Where did those little modern European Albion children on them trains come from that they were taking off to places and putting them in these orphanages? Where they come from?
From priests in the Catholic Church raping nuns in Europe, and the children's mothers was nuns and wasn't supposed to have children. So when we needed to put pale faces in institutions to get the secrets, and we sent for the people that kicked them out of Europe to send who you can. Well, they brought a lot of orphans with them, because the patron saint of the land is the patron saint of orphans as well, and widows. Right? So our clans was taking orphans in from all over the world, not just from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
See, they don't tell you about the Asian ones, and the Asian ones we made pacts with. That's why you have people that look like us with Lee in their name. Verdi Lee, Bobby Lee, Henry Lee, Arthur Lee, Jackie Lee. That's because that's the agreement with them to use their conjure to help break free from the oppressors. So they came with something called the Sun Wukong key. The Sun Wukong key is also called the Congo key. There's a Congo basin on every major landmass. The Congo key is also called the primate key or the master key. It was the key of Enki, the rulership key of the earth on the Y chromosome lineage.
Okay.
The structure was the women was the lawgivers, the men was the enforcers of the law. Wow. And so in order to be the enforcer of the law, you had to have the Congo key,
And
which is the master key.
What, I mean, was that knowledge or was that some?
It's a form of knowledge.
Okay.
It's a form of knowledge. It's how all of the clans around the world was all practicing under the same ancient practices, but now we in modern times and we need to get back to the ancient practices to overthrow the modern system that has ran amok and led us astray.
So the master, those who had like the master key system, was that like from like, was it, the guy was named Charles Hanel? Was that having taken some ancient knowledge from us and creating what he called the master key system?
So when anybody that put out a book that say master key on it is coming out of a Masonic lodge.
Okay.
They have codes in those books. And the only way to know what the code is to read the book.
Yeah, the master key system. Yeah. I was wondering if they had gotten that from us though. Was it something that was
all that's our shit.
Okay.
The Masonic Lodge used to be our rites of passage program for the royal families of the earth.
Wow.
But when they infiltrated the lodge, they used it to oppress us.
So they turned our own knowledge against us by keeping it from us, learning it, and then, use. Okay.
Yeah. So they keep us ignorant while they know what's going on. That's what they call in the lodge the fiat lux.
Fiat lux, Lux.
Yeah. That means the decree of light. We know it as the biblical term, let there be light. And the light is the Promethean flame. And you know the story of Prometheus, who stole the flame from heaven and imparted it onto man. That's wisdom.
Right.
Because what he's talking about, when he climbed up to the heavens, it was the rise of the Kundalini energy and the sacred secretion. And once you become aware, you impart the knowledge onto the people who's willing to receive it.
So here's a question. What were we doing before 1492 and how did we dress? Do you know?
When you see those, we wore a lot of bison leather was our standard, and we also use cotton. They talk about the cotton gin that we've been using cotton gins for thousands of years, so I don't know where they get that shit from. That some plantation owner created the cotton gin. Right? That's something that our people was using long before they came over here. Right? So our clothes was cotton, and those in the north in the colder climates use furs and pelts for clothes.
Now I've seen pictures where I've seen pictures of giant women, melanated women, standing over small, I guess, regular size, non-melanated women, as if they, and that these and perfectly proportioned, but big, we were told that at the time back then that, I don't know how true this is, that the Shirley Temple curls were created by Moors or women, and would put them on the Albion women's hair that were in their control, and it was a sign that they had, I think if I'm correct, that they were no longer like prostitute. You know how they had them in the working in the brothels or whatever, and they would put the Shirley Temple curls in their hair, show them how to dress and all this stuff. But the women were giants. I mean, like, you've seen pictures of Queen Khalifa, and she was a giant. Can you talk about, because you see some of those buildings from the World's Fair we're talking about, the doors were massive. Why were the doors that big?
Before the grid flipped, the people grew much, much bigger because, so our synthesis of oxygen right now is a single oxygen molecule, O1. A single molecule, just oxygen. But before the grid flip, excuse me, the upper atmosphere or the ozone layer, it was down here on the surface of the earth, meaning the air was thicker with oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And it made us grow into a different height than we do now. So being 7 foot tall was not a far stretch back then.
And so that's are some of the, you know, I know they found lots of graves with giant remains. They call them giant remains, large skulls.
Yeah,
and
a lot of them are Anunnaki too, because they pretty tall.
Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Now those are okay. So when were they here?
Oh, they done been back and forth for millions of years. But they used to didn't get involved in what was going on Earth until they decided to take over.
That's why that movie or that series I told you on Hulu, that, you know, because it has Valiant Thor in it and everything, and we heard all about that stuff, and I'm like, wow, they put this in that series, you know, in season 10, episode 7, 8, and 9. It's just they're just filling it all out. And the interesting part, you know, they'll see it, but I won't even tell what that is, because let them go look at it. I don't want to be a spoiler, but you got to look at it. Again, I keep saying thank you to Sister Ferry LL, because she was the one that told me about it. And I said, I'll take a couple of days and look at it. I watched it, like about 40 minutes each. I watched all 4 of them. I was like, I couldn't stop watching it, because I already knew about a lot of this stuff from the so-called truther community. And here it is right here on this thing. But if you're thinking about American Horror Story, I would be thinking about ghosts and goblins, you know. And speaking of, you know, werewolves, tell us about vampires versus werewolves, and when you told me about us being the werewolf.
Right. So the vampires is the ones who suck our blood. So those were the ones using the Babylonian money magic and blood rite rituals to subjugate us. Well, we was the ones fighting them. And some of our clans wore wolf pelts. So we were the ones that wear the wolves, and they was the ones sucking the blood.
So the true, what we see in the movie type
exaggeration
is an exaggeration. These are just men wearing wolf pelts when they had to go against these vampires, and they depicted it, you know, in movies, you know.
Right. So the ones that call vampires is the ones who own slaughterhouses now for bloodletting rituals.
That's meat where they kill the meat.
We didn't do that on this land. Right? That was prohibited on this land. No mass slaughter of any animals on this land for any purpose. That's why every family had a family farm. Even if you lived in the city, you went out to the farm to go get your fresh meats. Right? But we didn't have cities. We called our cities towns. Cities is municipalities with a articles of incorporation. It's a corporate entity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We didn't have that. We settle our land according to the people that all feel the same way, normally form into a village. And the village will set up towns and countries to an area to feed the town. The towns were generally made in a circular motion, moving to the center. And the center is where everything with the children took place, at the town center. That's so that we can always, and can't nobody get out of there with none of our kids. None of our babies can be taken from the downtown area. That's where all of the mothers congregated at. Well, now what they call it,
they got the squares.
Right. But now they call it City Hall. City Hall was the meeting place for the women in the town to look at the progress of the children to determine what we need to teach them for the development into the future. because
So
we
it wasn't city
understood.
though. It wasn't called City Hall though, but it's
No,
what
it was, yeah, it used to be called the town hall.
Town hall, okay.
They even do now. They be when you hear somebody call a town hall meeting, they making fun of us.
Really?
That's a whole mockery ritual of our original custom. We doing your stuff and you can't even see it.
Wow.
It's all a slap in the face to the sisters. Because they controlled the town hall meetings. Just like now, we calling for the three chiefs. Larry got to speak. He had to speak to the. He don't have to tell me nothing. He got to answer to the big mamas on the land. They want to know why we ain't got shit. We want to know where is our wealth. We want to know who's subjugating our children and how we gonna get over this obstacle in order to move into a functional future. He got to answer that. That's his job. As the chairman of the board, that's his job. And he got to have two witnesses, one blue, one red. West Coast witnesses Tukey, and the Midwest witnesses Angel Bay. Because you had to have one of the witnesses that was right up under him.
So someone had just asked in the chat, who are the three kings? That's who you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Everything that we do, we have to have a witness of the righteous to verify that we was acting according to the conditions available on the land for her to do what's right.
So why were they arrested or kidnapped? And why? I mean, and for so many years.
It was a COINTELPRO operation.
Right.
Yeah, remember, COINTELPRO's mission is to take the leaders off the land. If the leaders ain't on the land, what's going to happen to the people? They all go. Look, people be talking about, I don't need no leader, right? You hear it all the time. That's dogma. Because they same ones that saying they don't need a leader, they either in the church or they religiously following somebody that they seeing on TV every week.
Mm-hmm.
They need a leader. And leaders are not made, they born. Spiritual hierarchy makes them fit to rise through the ranks, most loved, most respected on the land by the people of the land and those who foreign to the land. Most loved, most respected, and then your natural skill set. What can you do? What did you train your whole life for? Most people don't even know. Some of these sisters went to school to be a nurse, but when they got into the hospital, they decided that this ain't for me. But they got nursing training. They supposed to be doulas. It's not compatible once they get in there and see how the medical field work. It's not tolerable. They can't take it.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be a doula. Right? The doula has always got with her a midwife, which is trained in whatever the modern form of medicine is for the day. But she's still practicing the ancient birthing rituals for the children to come back in and to maintain as much of their memory as they can.
When the babies come in, yeah.
Right. So it take us years to break free from the mental slavery. Right. That's why Marty say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind, because it's the internal work. But nobody's teaching us what this internal work is and how to do it. They just tell you to do the inner work. Take accountability. How can you take accountability when somebody forced you to do something? And the force don't always have to be at gunpoint. It could be because they limit your options.
Mm-hmm.
Then you forced to operate with limited options. That means whatever you choose to do, it's going to work to the benefit of the one who gave you the option. Because he's not going to never give you the option to benefit you and yours, but he's going to only give you the option that benefit him and his. Big Mama say, leave no stone unturned, so I ain't leaving none unturned. I'm going to tell the whole lie they told, I'm going to unravel it right here for us. You know, and it take me to repeat it 1,000 times, And that's what make me have to say to Taj, man, how did you do it for? Because I can't do it for 40 years. I can't do it for 40 years, 50 years.
Do we have, when it comes to time, what are we looking at? I mean, you keep hearing this is imminent, the change, this is imminent, but how
It's happening in real time.
Huh?
We train not to see what's taking place in real time for what it is. We can only see it when it's done.
Okay.
And that's what make us become impatient. And that's why they came up with this fast food culture, so that we can want everything right now, so we have no patience to fight in the protracted struggle. This has been a protracted struggle. This war been going on a minimum of 500 years on this land. The Inca kids was fighting it over there for 1,500, 2,000 years before it ever came over here.
Where's over there?
What they call Africa. Right?
But they were those are the others, and they're not the ones that were where we are.
No, we different tribes. We kindred tribes, but we different tribes.
Okay.
We used to intermarry with them, just like we used to intermarry with Asia on the West Coast. We used to go trading with them by ship, and they come trade with us by ship, just as well as Asia.
Here's my question. How did we go from being as affluent and build these palatial buildings, and even go back and look at what happened in Oklahoma when they, so-called Black Wall Street and all that. How do we go from there to now, then going backwards to looking like bedraggled, on the cotton field, out in the cotton field? How did we go from that, from an Atlantis type of existence?
Most of that is propaganda.
Okay, so we never.
So when you see pictures of us wearing potato sacks, that's propaganda. When you see pictures of us wearing feathers and moccasins, that's more closer to how we were.
So we had feathers and moccasins, and then we had castles, and we wore feathers and moccasins. Okay.
Yeah, that's our culture. Our culture didn't have nothing to do with Mario Brutini shoes, Stacey Adams. That's their culture that they brought over here to influence us to follow their ways. We didn't wear suits with lapels. Ours buttoned straight up the middle with no collars. Or we had pullovers.
And I guess we knew to keep our feet in contact either with the land or with something that was natural.
That's the reason why we wore moccasins.
Right.
Right. And the moccasins, the soles could either be hard leather or wood.
But it was natural.
And the shoemaker was a valued profession. Now, a shoemaker don't mean nothing. We got factories that put them out about 1,000 a day. But the shoemaker was like the iron workers,
Craftsmen. They were craftsmen, skilled craftsmen.
And they had a unbreakable workers union until they started murdering them.
To take it over. Yeah.
So when you see somebody that look like us and their last name is Schumann, they was the shoe man. They was the ones who made the shoe. So they started calling them shoemen.
Is it true that we didn't used to have what we call last names anyway?
No, we had what we call nicknames. Like we would be born with a name, and then as we grow up, we be given another name based on our characters. Like we got Little Squirrel, Boogaloo, Bebe, Shay Shay, all them nicknames. Right. So we would go by the nickname would be the name we called by. But only Big Mama, Mama, and Pops can call us by our birth name because that's sacred.
Yeah, okay, but last names, like you said,
No,
if
we didn't have surnames. They called
so
surnames.
we had descriptions, like you said, if you were John's son, that's it, you end up being the Johnsons,
Yep,
or shoe, like you said, the shoemaker or
yep.
shoeing.
People that Smith, like I got a guy I went to school with named Ronnie Goldsmith. That's what they family was originally doing. They was gold smelters,
Okay,
right? Blacksmith was the ones who worked the iron, the
iron.
cast iron. They the ones made the pots and the skillets, the cast iron cauldrons and the skillets, right? So we had different names for describe your profession.
Right.
But
Like
when they
my name was my birth surname was Dyer. So
DYER,
yes.
yep. So your family probably was the ones who dyed the fabrics.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all would have been the Dyer family.
Mm-hmm.
So when the people over here refer to y'all in the next city, when you go over there, you take this garment, these white clothes over here, tell the dyers, I need red, blue, green, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when they know when they come to town, hey, where do I find the Dyer family? Oh, that family lived down there. When they came from Europe, they used those as our surnames because they had surnames. A surname is a title of nobility. Everything we did with a spiritual connection, which would make the Dyer family would be the priests who operated the dye. That would be their family function.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the ones who was the shoemen, the ones who made the shoes, their family would be the priests of the shoes. Right? Everything we did, we had a priesthood and a royal family attached to it. That way, because after so long, a royal family gonna get so big, everybody gonna be related. That's how we was over here. And sometimes two brothers will fall out and they'll go separate ways. Big Mama say, well, you go to the south and you go to the north, and I'll see y'all at the family picnic. Y'all just don't bring that bullshit back here. Right? So when we come back to Big Mama house, we civil.
Mm-hmm.
We got our own territory, our own vine and fig tree, as Noble Drew Ali say.
Yeah.
But now they got us operating in a system that exploits the organic culture of the people and uses it as a weaponized tool to undermine the people. So they weaponized our culture against us. And if they catch us restoring our culture, they murder us. When you see the strange fruit that Billie Holiday sang about, those were chiefs and priestesses across the land. Those weren't haphazard hangings. And some of them, you see the tree, that's the whole family. And the most feared thing in the South was the black hen, because the black hen was the one under the white robe that led all of the rest of the white robe with the white hens.
Explain. I know what
the KKK was started by Spanish conquistador Moors. The whole dress came from Spain. And they would use the servants, the pale skins, and some of them were still blackamoors under those hoods. And they was the ones who was leading the campaign. And in the South, they derived the name called the Black Hen. Because that's all they could see is a black hen from under that white robe.
I didn't know that. And so when did they take it over and start to just do it with
when they killed the Continental Congress, right? And replaced John Hanson with George Washington, who was actually Albert Pike. Not Albert Pike, Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma.
Right.
With no beard. That's when they made their advance on the land.
Well. Y'all, this has been, what you think? I don't know. You think we're gonna let them go to sleep and sleep on all of this knowledge that you have shared tonight? What do you think? What do you think? I want to make sure y'all
They
and
got a lot of stuff in this last 3 hours, and probably
yes, yes.
some of them gonna listen to it 2 or 3 times because some of the stuff in here is like pretty heavy for them.
What did he say? Did he say that? Yeah. But listen, I'm putting this up. You know, Brother Rod didn't ask me to do this. I asked him for his Cash App. I want, you all to, support the brother. Tell us what sick, you told me what SICKAPE stands. You said an acronym on your Cash App.
Soldiers and Illuminati are present everywhere. For a lot of the Tupac fans, don't immediately know what that means.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was Machiavelli Don Illuminati, the advisor to the chief.
All right. Yeah. So we you want to drop any secrets about him? Did he really leave the earth clean? Can you say? I don't know where he is, but you told me, but you don't have to say.
Oh, I tell you, he in Cali right now.
Oh, now he's okay.
Yeah, he said you heard a rumor I died, murdered in cold blood, dramatized, pictures of me in my final stages. Mama cried. That shit was fiction. Some coward got the story twisted. Like I no longer existed, mysteriously missing. He was at the All Eyes on Me premiere with Shock G.
Wow.
And he been staying on a reservation in Arizona.
That's what you told me, yeah.
That's what made him arrest DMX down there for going to talk to him, and they knew where he was at, but they couldn't touch him because they have exposed their whole game plan. If they bring a living Tupac Shakur out, then we know they on some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'd be able to tell us exactly what happened then. And who was behind it. He told us in his music.
And I told you, or not told you, I told you, yeah, I did. I told you that I did not believe that Nipsey.
No, Nipsey and Eritrea.
Huh?
Look, I can tell you because when they see him, the people that been following me for a while are going to say, yep, Ryan said that. But the people who still following that bullshit narrative going to be traumatized. They're going to be shocked. I can't believe that. It's a movie script. It's a long run movie script. Hollywood can't give you a spoiler. It's against the law. We ain't write the law, but we can use everything they use to oppress us to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. Well. Yeah, like I said. Oh, I didn't ask you this. What about Chadwick Boseman?
I think he gone, but he wanted to go.
Okay.
Because he felt like he can do more work on the other side than he could on this side.
Okay.
But it don't mean they can't create a clone and he can come back.
Right.
Right. All he needs is a vessel that has a harmonic frequency to match his spirit body, and he can resume his life at any given time.
And you know what I felt like that was exactly, I didn't know whether he was really going or not, but I felt like he was going to reappear, but he wasn't going to be an actor. He was maybe going to be a producer. He was going to be around it, but then he was going to produce, and he was going to produce stuff that was more, truth and whatever.
He had a deliberate mission. If he woke up to consciousness and remembered what his mission was and it was fulfilled, it was time for him to check out. Now, he could have also did what Tukey did. He could have got froze.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we got some people froze that's been froze a long time that's supposed to have been dead. Right? Mm-hmm. But when they thaw them out, they're going to be just as functional as the day they was froze.
Well,
see, we think cryostasis is something new. Mm-hmm. We forget that when they put you under cryostasis, they had to have a way to pull you out of it.
Yeah. Somebody asked, what about Michael the Archangel Jackson?
Mike went to the Philippines. The last sighting of Michael Jackson was without his makeup because, they tried to murder him. They set him on fire.
Oh, that Pepsi commercial.
Yep, but they lied to you about how bad his burns was. If you want to know how bad his burns was, look for David on Larry King and you'll see him with no makeup. The only way you'll know it's him is if you know his voice.
Hmm. Wow. So all of that he went through was to cover up how he
Right.
was.
That's what made him start losing his pigment, the burns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people see burn victims and they dark skin become pale.
Hmm.
That's what happened to him.
Wow.
His nose started falling off from decaying from the burns being so bad to his face.
And it's funny how the family and the close, whoever the associates are that close, they have to go along with the deception. They go along with the deception, you know. And
well, some of the family ain't told because they got a loose lips and they'll sink the ship.
mm-hmm.
Only certain family members might know. And if I judge correct, the only two that Mike would leave that information with is Janet and his mother. He wouldn't tell none of his brothers or Rebe or Latoya. He especially wouldn't tell Latoya because she talked too fucking much. But his mama would be privy to the information because she would have to agree to
it. They throwing names out there like Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix was murdered with a hot shot.
What's that?
It's when you give a person a highly concentrated dose of heroin.
And they had those women around. That woman was probably a handler.
The one, if she looked like him, the one that gave him the shot looked just like him. And he knew what he was doing.
It was two.
The person that gave him the shot looked like him, skin complexion wise.
I know what you're saying.
He knew what he was doing, and he was doing it under the orders of the CIA.
To take that?
No, to give it to Jimmy. He didn't take that shit. He gave it to him.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
That's the same way they killed David Barksdale in Chicago. Murdered him. They say he died from kidney failure, but the police gave him a shot of battery acid in his veins.
Oh.
That's also what they call a hot shot.
What? I was looking at what somebody asked, do you think Dick Gregory is going? I think he is. Dr. Botanica, who is one of my close friends.
Dick Gregory ain't like Tupac. He couldn't, as big as his mouth is, he couldn't stay quiet.
Yeah, he was at his
and he was telling a whole lot of their secrets out in the open.
Right.
He the one gonna let you know Michael Jackson ain't dead when you tell you he got shot down by a laser.
Well, yeah.
When you look at the design of the house, if a laser would have came through there, it would have burnt a hole in the house.
Michael Jackson's house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Dick Gregory was saying that because the chiefs on the land know what he's saying. We know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now we know.
I don't know who this question is referring to, but someone asked, "Are they fighting for us?" So it could have been when we were talking about the Anunnaki.
Right. So this has all been part of the
Federation. Is there a Galactic Federation that might be?
The Galactic Federation is not allowed to enter into the conflict.
Not yet. Even if we call on them, because first of all,
the only time they can. This is why we haven't seen them. The only way we can call on them is when the war is over, we come out victorious, we all aware of what's taking place, and we all collectively say, come take out the trash, and then they come collect the imposters. They can't stay here. I don't know where they're going, but they can't stay here.
Well, they could probably go to another planet or something. Another
I would give a damn if they put them in the middle of the burning ass sun. They can't stay here. They cause too many problems for us. So they're not going to cause the same problems they cause for us for my children. That don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the wrong motherfucker to make an elder. Because I'm not letting nobody stay here that don't belong here. I don't care how light or how dark you is. If you ain't earthborn, you got to fucking go. That's the agreement with the Galactic Council to get out of the whole light lock condition that we in. That's what this is all. That's what's the big deal. At the close of the age of this age is like none other. Because nobody could figure out the problem. And they didn't want to call me because I'm just going to fix the problem and I ain't going to take side. So they don't want me to get involved because then the ones that don't belong, now they got to go. The ones who do belong, they can't exploit nobody. So those who thought they was entitled, now they become the same as everybody else. Ain't no big eyes and no little U's. No respect as a person. You gonna do right, you gonna be right, you gonna get right, or you gonna get gone. That's all. It's not personal, it's just family business. Big Mama wanted cleaned up, so I'm cleaning it.
Yeah. But the magician used to be extremely good at cleaning up. Someone wants to know, if you, I don't know if you know this, can you speak on the absence or disappearance of magicians that used to be on the scene like David Blaine and others?
Those magicians' job was to teach us how to read the sleight of hand deceptions, right? Remember, David Copperfield made a plane disappear. Everybody going to there says, there's no way he gonna make me believe that this plane disappeared. And when they all left, they thought the plane disappeared and wondering how he did that. It's mentalism because it's teaching the ones who see deception. We looking at it different than everybody else. We don't look at that shit like everybody else. Everybody else getting entertained. We learning lessons. How do this apply in warfare is all I want to know. Sun Tzu say all war is predicated upon a deception. Machiavelli say that in order to deceive your enemies, you must first deceive those closest to you to be sure that your enemy is well deceived. And that's why certain family members can't know.
Yeah.
Because they gonna tell somebody, pillow talking, whispering something. They gonna tell somebody. And it's gonna blow the cover. But it's a certain time and a place for everything. Everybody ain't supposed to be undercover forever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. I'm going to end this because I know we could talk all night, and they starting to shoot out the questions. And will you come back? Would you come back?
Of course.
You enjoyed this little interaction? You'll come back.
Yeah.
We'll bring him back, y'all. Next time we got the 751 on. Okay, so next time let's double that. But this is make sure support this brother because he's about a good work. He's about a good work, and even if you put $2 or something, but you can do better than that. But $2 or that 2 times the number in there, that'd be a good return. Just we want you.
But you know me, I don't care if they send something.
You don't care about money. I know it because I've heard you say it. I put this up. I mean finance rather. So I put this up, right? So I want you all to say thank you to the brother, and he's not about finance. He didn't ask me. I asked him. Please give me your Cash App. I normally don't even put people's Cash App up, but I felt led to do it, and I just want to say thank you because I'm seriously. You made you don't know how you impressed me, and I'm just so happy that when I said I'm going to interview him, I got to figure out how to get to him. I got to get him on the show, and then you came on my live and said something about Grand Sheik, and I had to ask you, is this really you? Remember, I said, yeah. Are you somebody that handles his page? And he's like, I can handle my own. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you, for just giving of yourself, giving of your time, giving of your knowledge, putting yourself out there, on a limb, because with the knowledge that you have, it can't be easy. But I don't see fear on you, because you know that you're here
I
to
want
do.
to smoke.
Okay, right.
I
So
want
you're
to
here
smoke.
to do.
Only reason I ain't out in the street instead of being on here is because my chief told me, Larry told me, we ain't gang banging, we brain banging. Because I'd have pushed it to their ass wherever I seen one of them.
Yes, but you use this platform and the platforms that I've seen you on Black Magic 365 and your own Instagrams and so forth. And every time I listen to you, it is just something else. And I'm now in that, I call it that elite group that can pick up the phone and call you and get an hour or 2 or 3 of knowledge just straight from you. But I appreciate you. We'll love to have you back on the show sometime. Love to get you and Grand Chic on together. We talked about that.
I'll probably be so enamored I can't speak.
Oh, he's just so down to earth. He's so down to earth. But look,
I got a soft spot for him because I'm sitting here listening to him do his work, but the people not hearing him.
Mm-hmm.
And it frustrates me to watch it. Now he to the point where it's the building didn't fail. Y'all ain't see it. I'm just gonna stand back and watch.
Mm-hmm.
Cause he know what's playing out. Even if he can't see it clearly, he could feel it in his soul from what he's been teaching all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The same with Hakeem Bey.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He been teaching, like when you listen to him, he tell you you're Moorish American, but he's teaching indigenous science.
Yeah, and he's put out he has some wonderful books out there. And if you can't get a hold of his books, they are on Scrib. They're on Scrib. Moorish Paradigm. Yeah.
And C. Freeman Hill.
Mm-hmm.
C. Freeman Hill is giving you the real science that Noble Drew Ali was teaching, different from the dogma that these modern Grand Sheiks is teaching. When you listen to C. Freeman Hill, Hakeem Bey, and Taj, if you don't know what's going on, that's because you don't want to know. Right? So I got to tell the good Moors where to get the righteous information so that they can come out of the trap of the dirty Moors. Right? They got to have the clock of destiny if they want to monitor the stellar time clock. Charles Mosley Bay and the clock of destiny, that's the timing. So you need that. That's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the people that's trying to teach it dogmatically, avoid them at all costs.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you ever teach the clock of destiny? Because we're getting into like the astrology and astronomy and all of that stuff. And some folks, don't have the focus for that.
Everything I'm doing is you can monitor it from the clock of destiny. If you can read the clock of destiny and know how to read the stars using it and know how to match it to the land, you would know exactly what I'm doing on a whole different level than the regular people.
Wow. I'm gonna have to pull mine out and try to see, look at it with some fresh eyes.
It's gonna be the world of difference. Knowing what you know now is gonna be in the world of difference. Because everything that happens has happened on a stellar clock. That's how they know how we come back. The stellar clock tells them when we coming back. So then they know how to attach a social security number to us.
So that's when you asked me about my mother, and her coming back. So you're saying when they look at the time, that's why they clock the time and date and time of your incoming, of you when you come, your arrival, and then based on that they
know who you is.
And then when you leave, they put that together, and then they say they coming back or they not coming back, and then they come back, they're coming back at this time.
Yep. Now our big mama can tell you by the name of the people in the family which one.
Oh, what happened? Let me hold up. You're muted. Let me see. Can't unmute. Can you unmute yourself? Let me see. Did they shut us off, y'all?
Can you hear me now?
There you are. Okay. You
Yeah,
said big,
somebody was trying to call in.
oh, you said Big Mama can tell you. You said something.
Right. So Big Mama know how to tell you like what ancestor is somebody coming back through. Now a lot of our ancestors not coming back no more. This was their last hurrah. Because they not organic to the earth. They an Anunnakis who migrated to Earth.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I do have something else to ask you real quick to hit on, because we talked about this. Taking off this. When we talked about St. Patrick and the running the snakes out of Ireland. We talked about who those original people were that they called. Well, the snakes weren't real snakes; they were people. And you talk about the Trois de Nana, who ended up being caricaturized as elves and leprechauns, but they were our people. Like,
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Those are the same as the Sign Bush people, one of the oldest genetic stocks on the planet. And they settled Ireland, and the ones who settled Rome. Okay, you got to remember, St. Patrick was commissioned by the Pope. St. Patrick was a military general before he was a saint. His military conquest was the island of Ireland. And the code, not to say he got rid of the priests, because they don't want us to know that. They say he cleared out all of the snakes in Ireland. Well, they called them snakes because the sisters wore armbands, snakes on their armband in gold. And the males wore a gold snake around their head with a Uraeus symbol on the right. Right. So when St. Patrick went, that's who he was targeting. Those who wore the snake bands was the ones who was teaching the Orisha knowledge to the Irish. Irish is Orisha.
All right. Orisha.
It's just translated into English.
And now we got a whole nother folk over there claiming to be Irish.
No, well, some of them, the ones that they call gingers, those mulattoes.
Okay.
And the redhead Loa, Maman Brigitte, that's they Loa. She the only Loa that don't look like us in the whole Orisha. Maman Brigitte.
So, like I said, so when you see this, Lucky Charms, magically delicious cereal and different things, just, they've changed these little rosy cheek leprechauns. That's not. And you can look up and study about the Trois de Nana and what they were known for, but just get out of your mind that they were these, Albion people.
Yeah, those are different people. They not the same as the rest of Europe. The Irish are called Europe's redhead stepchild.
Well, okay.
Right, because they was under the jurisdiction of the one they called the redhead princess and her twin sister, Scotta and Scotia. When they got to the Americas, they was brought to Americas by what we call Vikings or vicarious kings of the sea, who was commissioned by the queen to be seafarers and administrate law on the high seas. Right? So when they were under attack, they fell in. One of them, Scotta, was supposed to be dead, but she fell into the ocean. Her sister dived in to get her out, and the Vikings drew him from the water and brought him over here for a safe haven, because nothing going on in Europe or Asia was supposed to come over here. That is supposed to never affect us in any kind of way. So they knew that they could bring them over here for a safe place. Now, when you look at Plato's description of Atlantis, he tells you it's through the Pillars of Hercules. Beyond the sea is the Atlant. It wasn't called Atlantis until they Europeanized the word. It was the Atlant. The Atlan was Thoth's land, Jehuti. Jehuti is the bird clans. They call them the bird clans because they wear feathers. He's represented in Mexico as the great thunderbird, Quetzalcoatl. Right? So they knew that they wasn't supposed to bring that shit over here. Now, our people over here know one thing. If we can't figure it out in a reasonable amount of time, we know who to call. We just don't want to call him because we don't know how he's going to tear this motherfucker up next time.
Who we call?
Thoth.
Oh, wow. All right.
And when he get here, they going to know he here because he going to tell you everything the motherfuckers did to lie and deceive you at every turn. And how to get out of it. It's a paper chain. Don't file no paperwork.
It sounds like you sound like Thoth. Sounds like Thoth is over here on that hiding in Rod Hayes.
In plain sight.
Yeah, sounds like that to me. Listen, one last question. Someone asked me to ask you if you know anything. Where'd it go? Dee Dee, I saw it. I'm trying not to ignore it. Can you ask Brother Rod Hayes? Ask Rod Hayes. Does he know about the Saint Germain Trust and what can he tell us about it?
The Saint Germain, it's more than one. Saint Germain Trust is just one. That's our birthright. That's all your money that they've been held up for the last 500 years while they were saying that we crashed into their ship.
I can't get over that. Our landmass crashed into their moving ship that was coming in towards the land, and we've been accused of crashing into them. Wow.
They actually ran into a sandbar.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the time we was occupied, it used to be a ship. Trump ran it out. But it used to be a ship that had to be parked in the bay off of DC. They was the ones whose job it was to collect the birth certificates and take them back to London. It's a certain time of year around Thanksgiving, the Christmas season, where they take all of the batch roll for the year across the waters before the next year. That's what they call the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the end of the fiscal year, they have to submit all of the birth certificates for the new batch rolls so they can levy the lien. That's your tribe of Levi, levy.
Mm.
And they operate in law using the lien system.
Wow. Yeah. So the trust, the Saint Germain Trust, is actually another one of their ways of.
Right. So couldn't nobody access it because it's our shit. The only way we can access it is we got to reclaim our land.
Hmm.
Now that we didn't reclaim the land, when the people realize that we didn't done it and get out into the public domain, then we start to wake from the slumber. Then we started to say, okay, well, fuck a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We worked everything we did was called a labor of love because we did everything to support the family. We didn't do nothing. We didn't work no job to pay no bills. We did our work to facilitate the family's function into the future. But everything they got us working for now is all the wrong reason. We working to pay bill and buy shit.
Mm.
Instead of working to build and construct.
Yeah.
We
Right.
became consumers instead of producers. That's why Made in America used to be the best shit because we made it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we ain't making it no more, Made in America don't mean shit.
Yeah, well,
It fall apart just like Made in Japan now.
somebody asked, well, that national parks are land. It's all our land.
all of the land was tribal land except for the 10 square miles. DC was set aside as the stronghold or as the headquarters for the corporation. The interim government is actually what it is called. And that 10 square miles was reclaimed in 2018, 2019, when they staked the totem pole in DC. That was our us reclaiming that land.
Oh wow. I said that was the last question, but this is interesting. I want to know. Somebody said, tell them about what's buried in the Mississippi River. Do you know?
It's a whole bunch of stuff. It's cities under the river.
Really?
It's cities under the river. They had damn Mississippi River up one time in order to blow the dam and make the water come out in a torrent and stretch the banks of the river out so that they could sink the cities of the people that used to live on the sides of the river.
Oh wow. So
Right.
they made it wider.
Yeah. And they used dynamite to make ravines to make it so to make more flood lanes. It's a lot of cities.
Is that the Nile?
Just the Nile.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got what they call the Eastern Nile. That's in Africa, and the one over here is called the Western Nile. Mm. Ours is what we call the true Nile. The other one is a replica. That's why it flows in the wrong direction on purpose. Mm. We engineered it that way.
Wow.
Because all of the rivers are supposed to flow up. Up is south.
And we've been told that up is north.
You're absolutely wrong. That's what we were told. We were so told that lie. We've
so
always been
opposite, or are they in the right direction, east and west? It's just north and south.
They only changed north and south, but it affected how we perceived east to west.
Wow.
Now remember, our ancestors have been saying the South gonna rise again. The only way the South can rise again is to raise the matriarch, because when the map is upside down, the state of Florida is the trunk of the elephant.
Okay. So when it flips,
Florida is the raised trunk of the elephant.
Okay.
Alabama is our ear.
Okay. I'm just trying to visualize. Let me see. I'm doing something in New Orleans, just stuff. All right, y'all. I could go on and on and on and on. We at 3 hours and 32 minutes. This has been. Y'all gonna share this video. Y'all gonna let the brother know how much you appreciate this knowledge drop, and I, he's not doing it for any fiat, but it always helps. It always helps to know people appreciate you and to help you further what you're doing. So I want to thank you. I'm gonna bring him back. He's got more knowledge, I'm sure.
I ain't gonna run out no time soon.
I know you're not, Brother Thoth. That's what the record keeper. All right. Yeah. So we're gonna go. I'm going to. I got a little side hustles that I do. So I'm gonna put my little promo up and go out for people that have not tried my chokeberry. They need to get some there. So I have thoroughly enjoyed you being on the show. Trust me, I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and what made me feel even doubly proud was that I said I was going to get you on here even when I didn't have any way of contacting you, and then as it turned out, you reached out. So you reached out not because of coming on my show, but you were saying something to Grand Sheik when you caught us walking, in the live in the park. So appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Dr. G.
Yes, and I'm sure Grand Sheik was in Atlanta tonight. I hope that everything went very well, that there was a really good turnout, but I know he's going to enjoy this interview when he sees it in the replay. So again, thank you all of you with your great comments, and we're going to bring him back. Thank you. Yeah. I hear voices coming through the phone. Maybe it's coming on your side. I don't know what it is, but we're getting ready to go. Again, thank you so much. Oh, for those of you who are also office hours with Dr. G fans, or you follow me for my Tuesday show, I forgot to say this last Tuesday the other day. that I'm not doing a Tuesday show next week. I'm going to take the week off, y'all. I gave you a treat. This is a real treat to bring Brother Rod Hayes on for 3.5 hours on Friday. I normally wouldn't be on. So y'all can excuse me for not coming on next Tuesday or next Friday, but we will be back on the first Friday with Brother Yakuba J. Room L. You're going to love that show. He's going to be in place of Grand Sheik, who's going to be on a week's vacation that he sorely needs. And then you'll see Grand Sheik on the third Friday. So I'll be back Tuesday after next, but not next week. I deserve time off every now and then, don't you think? Yeah. All right. Thank y'all. Let me see. People, we need to donate. Yeah, y'all can do that. Even when hit that like. If you haven't, give us some more likes. And yeah. How much is it? How much for the choke bear? I'm going to do my promo. It's going to tell you how to text me. I'll send you a link and then you'll know. Peace, my brother. Love you.
All right. Same to you. See you later.
Okay. All righty. We're going to go out here. I have to figure. I have to do like 3 different times. I got 3 different things. I got to put up the promo, click the music. So it don't always go as like it's supposed to, but we're going to figure it out. So you get to hear about it right here. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate you. Dr. G, inviting you to get your Chokeberry Plus today. It is that amazing berry, high in antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral properties. It supports and balances the blood pressure, the blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. Yes, you can get a 2-month supply today by texting CB3L to 302-345-0500. That's CB3L to 302-345-0500. And get on the path to wellness today. You'll be glad you did.
Deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening mine. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening mine.